Hello and thank you for allowing this moment for yourself. You can let go of all focus now. Just allow your attention to soften as my voice gently carries you to a place of rest, a place where we find the story of a golden cage, and the dark water that laps at its foundations. In our time together tonight, there is nothing to examine, nothing to understand, only the gentle rhythm of a story, the story of a body that was once a temple, condemned, simply a vessel to be disposed of. Before we drift too far, if you feel a connection to this place, you're welcome to leave a quiet like or subscribe. Think of it not as a task, but as leaving a soft footprint in the sand before you continue your journey inward. And if you feel so inclined, you can let me know in the comments what city you're listening from, and what time it is for you now. It's a nice thought to imagine all of us finding this quiet place together from all corners of the world. And so, find that gentle darkness in your room, perhaps with a soft blanket pulled a little closer, as we begin our slow drift into tonight's tale. The first thing you notice is the change in the rocking. For weeks, maybe months, the sunrises and sunsets have blurred into a single, monotonous grace. Mere the motion has been your only constant. The deep, nauseating lurch and sway of the open sea. It has become a part of your bones. The rhythm you sleep to, the jolt that wakes you. But now, it's different. It's a gentler, shorter chop, a lapping, the sound of water meeting a shore that is very, very close. You risk a glance upwards, through the thick wooden grate that serves as your sky. The air smells different, too. The clean, harsh scent of salt is being overpowered by something else. Something thick, complex, and deeply alive. It's the smell of a million meals being cooked, of wood smoke and charcoal, of animal dung and spices you can't name, of sweat and perfume and 100,000 souls packed together. It's the smell of a city. A low murmur from the other figures huddled with you in the ship's hold confirms you aren't imagining it. A girl from a village near yours, one whose language you still understand, begins to weep silently. Another, a striking woman with hair the color of fire, captured from some northern port, simply stares at the grate with an unnerving stillness. You are a collection of stolen beauties, a cargo of potential. Historians still debate the exact numbers, but for centuries, the human tide flowing into this city was a relentless, heartbreaking reality. You are just one drop in that vast, sorrowful ocean. Your own reflection, caught for a moment in a puddle of bilge water on the floor, is a stranger. The face is thin, the eyes are huge and dark, and the hair is matted with salt. The clothes you wear are coarse, smelling of the ship, of fear, of the journey. You try to remember your name, the real one, the one your mother gave you. It feels like a stone in your mouth, a shape your tongue has forgotten how to form. Here, you are not a person, you are merchandise. Suddenly, a rectangle of brilliant, painful light floods the hold as the hatch is thrown open. Silhouettes of men stand against the glare, shouting in a language that sounds like stones rattling in a tin cup. It's Turkish. You've landed a few words, mostly commands. Get up, be quiet, move. The men's eyes rake over you, not with cruelty, but with the dispassionate gaze of a merchant assessing his goods. They are looking at your height, the clarity of your skin under the grime, the shape of your eyes, the quality of your hair. They are calculating your worth. You are prodded and pushed up a rickety ladder into the blinding light of day. You stumble onto the deck, your legs unsteady on a surface that, for the first time in months, isn't moving. The sheer sensory assault is overwhelming. The city isn't just a smell, it's a sound, a physical presence. It roars, a deep, endless hum of voices, of hammers on metal, of boat horns and the calls of merchants. And it is beautiful, terribly, heart-stoppingly beautiful. Before you stands Constantinople, the envy of the world. It doesn't rise from the sea, it commands the sea to part for it. Domes, vast and grey like the backs of sleeping whales, set atop immense buildings, and piercing the skyline everywhere. Like a forest of white marble needles are the minarets of the mosques, each one a finger pointing towards a god you do not know. The sun glints off gilded tips and tiled roofs, making the whole city shimmer as if it were a mirage. It feels impossible that a place of such breathtaking grandeur could be your destination. It feels like a cruel joke, to be shown heaven just as you're being led into a very different kind of eternity. You are herded with the others towards the gangplank. On the docks, life churns on, utterly indifferent to your arrival. Men with tanned, weathered faces carry immense loads on their backs. Porters yell for passage, and richly dressed merchants haggle over silks and spices. No one gives your sad, shuffling little group more than a passing glance. You are just another ship, another piece of the city's vast, hungry machine. A strange and little-known fact about this process is the specialization of the market. Not all of you are destined for the same fate. The men who bought you on some distant, forgotten shore are not random pirates. They are agents, connoisseurs of human flesh. They know that a girl with pale skin and fair hair from the northern steppes might appeal to one buyer, while another might pay a fortune for the famous almond-shaped eyes of a Circassian. They had looked at you and seen not a terrified girl, but a specific category of product with a predictable market value. As your bare foot touches the solid, grimy wood of the dock, a finality sets in. The sea is behind you now. The past is gone. There is only this overwhelming, terrifying, magnificent city, and the path it has chosen for you. You don't know where you're going, but you know you have arrived. You have reached the end of one journey, and are about to be unwittingly born into a new life, one that will take place behind the walls of a palace built on secrets. The world outside the palace walls is a chaotic symphony of life, but the moment you pass under the shadow of the first great gatehouse, the sound changes. It doesn't vanish, but it becomes muffled, distant, as if the city's roar is being filtered through thick velvet curtains. This is the Imperial Gate, the public entrance, but you are not led through its grand central archway. You are shuffled off to a smaller, less imposing side door, a servant's entrance for human-sized deliveries. You walk through a series of sprawling courtyards. The first is vast and surprisingly green, filled with soldiers and strained, tall heads, officials striding with self-importance, and servants scurrying on endless errands. It feels like a small city in itself. But this is just the periphery, the public face of the palace. Your group is herded onward, your bare feet padding silently on stone worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. You see glimpses of immense kitchens with chimneys belching smoke, stables housing horses that look sleeker and better fed than any person you've ever known, and armories where the sunlight glints off terrifyingly sharp steel. Then you arrive at a second gate. It's smaller than the first but far more ornate, flanked by two octagonal towers with pointed roofs. This is the Gate of Salutation, and it is here that the world truly splits into. Only the Sultan himself can pass through this gate on horseback. Everyone else, even the most powerful vizier, must dismount. It's a physical reminder that all who enter are subservient to a single will. But your path veers again. You are not destined for the halls of government or the divan where the fate of the empire is decided. You are guided towards an even more secluded, more mysterious entrance. It is a heavy, dark wooden door, unassuming yet radiating an aura of immense power and secrecy. This is the carriage gate, one of the main entrances to the Imperial Harem. As the door creaks open, you are pushed inside, and with a heavy thud, it closes behind you. The air changes again. The scent of horses, soldiers, and cooking fires is gone, replaced by something subtle and intoxicating. It smells of beeswax, of flowers you can't see, of expensive perfume, and of clean, sun-dried linen. The light is different, too. It's softer, filtered through high, latticed windows designed to let light in but keep prying eyes out. These intricate wooden screens, called mashrabiyah, are a signature of the harem, A beautiful and constant reminder that you are here to be seen, but not to see. You find yourself in a long, narrow courtyard paved with stone. On all sides rise timber-framed buildings, their upper floors jutting out over the walkways below. It's a maze of covered corridors, archways, and staircases, all leading to places you cannot imagine. The silence here is unnerving. It's not empty, but it's a quiet filled with unseen life. You hear the soft slip-slap of slippers on stone, a faint melody from a stringed instrument, a peal of distant female laughter, quickly suppressed. This is the court of the Black Eunuchs. They are the guardians, the administrators, and the jailers of this world. You see them now, standing sentry in the archways. They are tall, imposing men, mostly from regions in Africa, dressed in fine silks. Their faces are unreadable masks, their eyes missing nothing. They are the bridge between the male world of the outer palace and the female world of the harem. Their unique position gave them immense influence, a fact often overlooked in popular retellings. The chief Black Eunuch, the Kizilaraga, was one of the most powerful officials in the entire Ottoman Empire, controlling the flow of information, money, and people into the harem. He could make a girl's career, or he could make her disappear. You and the other new arrivals are lined up against a wall. A stern, older woman emerges from a doorway, flanked by two eunuchs. She is not a concubine. She is an administrator, the Caliph Al, a senior servant who has spent her entire life within these walls. Her face is a roadmap of discipline and fatigue. She walks down the line. Her eyes as sharp and cold as a physician's tools. She doesn't just look at you. She assesses you. She lifts your chin, inspects your teeth, pulls at your hair to check its texture and length. It's a humiliating, deeply impersonal process, a continuation of the market appraisal on the docks. Some historians argue that this initial inspection was purely about health and suitability for service. Others contend it was a far more cynical process, a culling of the herd. Girls deemed too plain, too sickly, almost dangerously too defiant, might be immediately relegated to the lowest rungs of menial servitude, never to be seen by anyone of importance. The line between being chosen for greatness and being condemned to a life of scrubbing floors was terrifyingly thin, and it was drawn in these first few moments. One of the girls next to you, the one who was weeping silently on the ship, starts to tremble uncontrollably. The K-Alpha stops in front of her, her expression one of pure annoyance. She speaks a sharp, guttural command. The girl doesn't understand. The K-Alpha repeats it, louder this time. The girl flinches and begins to sob. The loud, panicked sound that shatters the harem's delicate quiet. Immediately, two eunuchs step forward. They don't touch her violently, but with a terrifying, practiced efficiency. One places a hand over her mouth. The other takes her arm, and they steer her away, through a dark archway. She's gone, just like that. The rest of you stand frozen, the lesson screamingly clear. Your voice, your tears, your fear, they are liabilities here. Silence is survival. The K-Alpha finishes her inspection and nods curtly. She says something to a eunuch, who then turns and beckons for you to follow. You are led away from the courtyard, deeper into the labyrinth. You pass doorways from which you hear the sounds of dozens of women. You catch glimpses of rooms crowded with cushions and low tables, of girls embroidering, playing music, or simply talking in low tones. It's a world entirely of women, yet it feels more dangerous than any place you have ever been. Every glance holds a hidden meaning. Every whisper could be a plot. This place you have entered, this golden cage, is officially called the Dara Sob, the Gate of Felicity. It's a beautiful name for a place that operates on fear, ambition, and the quiet, constant threat of oblivion. You have just taken your first, tentative steps inside. You don't know the rules, you don't speak the language, and you've already seen what happens to those who break the suffocating calm. Your new life begins not with luxury, but with disorientation. You are led down a long, echoing corridor known as the long wardrobe or corridor of the carts, though historians debate its precise original name and function. It's a bustling, utilitarian space where supplies for the harem are sorted and stored. It smells of dried lavender and cedar wood, used to keep moths from the vast quantities of fabric. Here, you are stripped of your rough, travel-stained clothes. They are taken away without ceremony, and you feel a strange pang of loss. It was the last physical link to your old life. You are handed a simple, loose-fitting chemise of plain cotton and a pair of wooden bath clogs. Then, you are taken to be bathed, a process that is less about comfort and more about purification and inspection. Older, stern-faced attendants scrub you with coarse cloths and harsh soap, their movements efficient and impersonal. They are checking for scars, for blemishes, for any imperfection that might mar your value. After the bath, you are given your first harem attire. It's not the silken, jeweled fantasy you might have imagined. It's a uniform, simple trousers, a long-sleeved tunic called a gomlek, and an overrobe called an anteri. The fabrics are of decent quality, far better than anything you've ever worn before, but they are plain, unadorned. Individuality is not yet a privilege you have earned. You are now an odalaske, a chambermaid, the lowest rank of the harem hierarchy. Your primary purpose is not to be beautiful, but to be useful and, above all, invisible. You are assigned a sleeping space in a crowded dormitory with dozens of other new girls. There are no beds, just mattresses laid out on a raised platform that runs the length of the room. Your personal possessions consist of a single chest containing a change of clothes, a comb, and a small mirror. This is your entire world. At night, the room is a cacophony of quiet sounds, soft crying, muttered prayers in a dozen different languages, and the restless shifting of bodies dreaming of homes they will never see again. The next morning, your education begins. You are not taught to read or write, not at first. The initial lessons are far more fundamental. The first is language. You must learn Ottoman Turkish, the language of the court. To fail to learn is to remain powerless, deaf and dumb in a world where information is everything. Your teachers are the senior Kai Alphas, women who have risen through the ranks and now wield authority with an iron will. They are strict, and their primary teaching tool is repetition. You spend hours each day chanting words, practicing phrases, your tongue struggling to form the unfamiliar sounds. The second lesson is movement. You are taught how to walk, how to sit, how to stand. There is a specific way to carry yourself in the harem, a glide, not a stride. Your eyes must be downcast unless you are spoken to. You learn how to pour coffee, how to serve a sweet, how to present a cloth, all with a fluid, silent grace. Every gesture is prescribed. Every action has a protocol. To drop a cup or stumble is not just clumsy. It's an insult to the order of the palace. Then comes the more refined, and for some, more enjoyable part of the curriculum. You are taught the arts. Music is paramount. You are tested on various instruments, the lute like AUD, the hauntingly beautiful ney flute, the rhythmic DIF drum. If you show any aptitude, you will be given intensive instruction. The harem was meant to be a place of sensory pleasure for the Sultan, and music was a key component. A woman who could play or sing beautifully had a valuable skill, a way to be noticed. You are taught to dance, not the wild, celebratory dances of your village, but a slow, sinuous, and suggestive art form. It is about control, about the subtle sway of the hips, the graceful arc of an arm, the expressive movement of the fingers. It is a language in itself, a conversation without words. And you are taught needlework. You learn to embroider intricate patterns onto silken velvet, a skill that serves both as a pastime to fill the endless, empty hours and as a practical way to contribute to the harem's finery. An interesting untold detail of this education is the focus on what might be called palace awareness. You are drilled on the titles and ranks of every important person, not just in the harem but in the outer palace as well. You must know who the chief treasurer is, which vizier is in favor, which of the Sultan's sons is the current heir apparent. This isn't academic knowledge, it's a map of power. Knowing who to bow to, and how low, is a matter of survival. This entire system, this school for concubines, is a meticulously designed machine for erasing your past and forging you into a new creation, one perfectly suited for the palace environment. Historians often portray this as a romantic, finishing school environment, but the reality was likely far more brutal. It was a process of breaking you down completely before building you back up in the desired image. There's a persistent debate among scholars about the level of coercion involved. Was it pure indoctrination, or did some women embrace this education as their only path to agency and power? The truth probably lies somewhere in the murky middle, varying from woman to woman, from generation to generation. You find you have a small talent for the oud. The smooth, polished wood feels solid and real in your hands, and the melodies you coax from its strings are a small pocket of beauty in this highly regulated world. But you also learn that any talent is a double-edged sword. To play well is to risk being noticed, and to be noticed is to be thrown into a game whose rules you are only just beginning to understand. A game where the prize is unimaginable luxury, and the price of losing is a fate you don't yet dare to contemplate. For now, you are just one of many faces in the school of the harem, learning to be a perfect, beautiful, and silent part of the machine. The harem runs on water, not just for drinking, but for ritual, for hygiene, and, most importantly, for social connection. Your days are punctuated by visits to the hammam, the palace bathhouse. It is one of the few places where the rigid hierarchies of the harem are, if not dissolved, at least softened. It is a world of steam, murder, and secrets. The first time you are taken to the hammam, it's an overwhelming experience. You pass from the relative cool of the stone corridors into a warm changing room, the game turn, where you undress and are given a thin cotton wrap, a pissed mel, to cover yourself. From there, you enter the heart of the bathhouse. The air is thick with steam, so dense it feels like you could drink it. The entire space is clad in white and grey veined marble, polished to a high sheen and slick with condensation. The only light filters down from small, star-shaped glass windows in the domed ceiling, casting hazy beams through the mist. The acoustics are strange. Every sound the splash of water, a laugh, a whispered word echoes and travels, creating a constant, murmuring symphony. In the center of the main room, the hierarchy, is a large, heated marble slab called the Gobi KT as the belly stone. Women are lying on it, their bodies glistening with sweat as the heat seeps into their muscles. Around the perimeter of the room are alcoves with marble basins, where attendants or other women pour hot and cold water from ornate copper bowls. This is where you truly learn the landscape of the harem. The school teaches you the formal rules, but the hammam teaches you the real ones, stripped of their silks and jewels. The women are more relaxed, more open, and they talk. Oh, how they talk. The hammam is the harem's news agency, its courtroom, and its confessional, all rolled into one. Here, you don't just hear gossip, you study it. You learn to sit quietly in a corner, ostensibly scrubbing your arms, and just listen. You learn which groups of women cluster together, who the leaders are, who the outcasts are. You hear about the K-Alpha who was demoted for being too lenient with the new girls. You hear about the concubine who received a gift of 7 silk scarves from the Sultan's mother, a sign of immense favor. You hear the whispers about another girl, an IKBL or favored consort, whose belly is just beginning to swell with a potential heir. That piece of information is the most valuable currency of all. The bathhouse has its own peculiar etiquette. For instance, it was considered a grave insult to splash an older or higher-ranking woman, even by accident. A bit of a design flaw. You can't help but think, for a room made entirely of water and wet marble, this unwritten code of conduct was ferociously enforced. A misplaced splash could earn you a week of the worst chores or, worse, the silent, simmering enmity of a powerful woman. You also learn about the rivalries. You see two beautifully dressed women, both official consorts of the Sultan, enter the harem at the same time. They do not look at each other. They do not speak to each other. Their respective attendants set up their bathing stations on opposite sides of the room, creating an invisible wall of pure hostility. The other women in the harem become preternaturally quiet, careful not to be seen as favoring one side or the other. You learn that their rivalry is not about personal dislike. It's about their sons. Each has a young prince, and only one of them can one day inherit the throne. Their silent war is the most dangerous game in the entire empire, and the harem is one of its many battlefields. Historians are still trying to piece together the true social dynamics of the harem. Were they genuinely female-centric spaces of solidarity, as some romantic sources suggest, or were they pressure cookers of intriguing competition, as logic would dictate? The most likely answer is that they were both, simultaneously. Moments of genuine friendship and support undoubtedly happened in the steam, but they existed alongside calculated political maneuvering. A shared confidence could be a bond, or it could be a weapon stored for later use. One day, while you are quietly refiling a basin, you hear two older women talking. They are not high-ranking, just long-term residents of the harem. Their faces creased with the wisdom of survival. They are talking about a girl who, a few years ago, had risen quickly, catching the Sultan's eye. But she grew arrogant. She flaunted her gifts. She mocked a less fortunate rival. Then, one day, she simply wasn't there anymore. The Bosporus is deep, one of the women says, her voice a low murmur that barely cuts through the splashing water, and it keeps its secrets. The other woman just nods, her expression grim. It's the first time you've heard it spoken aloud. This dark, unspoken possibility, the ultimate punishment. It hangs in the steam like a ghost, a chilling counterpoint to the warmth of the marble. You suddenly feel a cold dread that has nothing to do with the temperature of the water. You look around at the woman laughing, relaxing, potting, and you realize that this place of cleansing and comfort is also a place of profound danger. The whispers in the bathish are not just idle chatter. They are lessons in survival. They are warnings. And you, the quiet girl in the corner, are listening to every single one. As you become more attuned to the rhythms of the harem, you begin to understand that while the Sultan is the sun around which this entire universe revolves, he is a distant, almost mythical figure. The true, tangible source of all power within these rules is a woman. She is the Valide Sultan, the Queen Mother, the mother of the reigning Sultan, and her authority is absolute. You see her for the first time not in a grand ceremony, but during a routine inspection of the kitchens. One moment, the kitchens are a controlled chaos of clanging pots, shouting cooks, and scurrying servants. The next, a hush falls. It starts at the entrance and spreads like a wave. A sudden, reverent silence. Into this quiet walks a procession. First, two eunuchs, their faces impassive. Then, several high-ranking ladies in waiting. And then, Pooh. The Valide Sultan is not a young woman. Her face is lined, but her posture is ramrod straight, and her eyes, dark and intelligent, miss nothing. She is dressed in rich, dark silks, but her opulence is understated, a quiet declaration of power that has no need to shout. She doesn't walk, she glides. The entire world seems to reorient itself around her presence. The chief cook, a mountain of a man who normally rules his domain with a terrifying roar, bows so low his forehead nearly touches his knees. She doesn't speak. She simply moves through the kitchens, her gaze sweeping over the vats of simmering stew, the racks of bread, the trays of glistening pastries. She stops and points a single, elegant finger at a bowl of pomegranates. A lady in waiting scurries forward, picks up a pomegranate, and presents it to her on a small silver tray. The Valide Sultan inspects it for a moment, her expression unreadable, and then gives a slight, almost imperceptible nod. A collective, silent sigh of relief seems to ripple through the kitchen staff. The inspection is over. The pomegranate have met with her approval. This is the law of the matter. Her word governs every aspect of harem life. From the daily menus and the budget for new fabrics to the education of the princess and the selection of new concubines for her son. The harem is her household, her domain, and she rules it as a monarch rules a kingdom. Her power stems from a simple, unassailable fact. She is the one who gave the empire its emperor. Historically, the role of the Valide Sultan evolved into a formal, institutionalized position of immense influence. A period sometimes referred to as the Sultanate of Women. These women were not just passive figures. They commissioned mosques, sponsored charities, and engaged in sophisticated political diplomacy, often acting as regent for their young sons. The extent of their direct political power is a topic of intense debate among historians. Some argue they were the true power behind the throne, manipulating their sons and the court viziers. Others suggest their influence was more subtle, confined to the soft power of dynastic and household matters. The reality is that their power was very real, and to cross a Valide Sultan was political, and sometimes literal, suicide. You learn a curious, almost quaint detail about her power, the tradition of the ceremonial slippers. When a new girl was chosen to be presented to the Sultan, the Valide Sultan would personally send a pair of embroidered slippers to her. This was not just a gift. It was the official notification, the seal of approval. To receive the slippers was to know that your life was about to change. To not receive them after being noticed by the Sultan meant that the Valide Sultan had vetoed the match. A quiet but absolute rejection. Later that week, you witness a more direct application of her power. Their young concubine, a girl known for her fiery temper and a streak of defiance, has a loud, public argument with the Khalsa. It's a shocking breach of decorum. Within the hour, she is summoned, not to the Valide Sultan's main audience chamber, but to a smaller, more private room. No one knows what is said inside, but the girl, when she emerges, is a changed person. Her face is pale, her eyes are wide with a new and profound fear, and all the fire has gone out of her. She is never a problem again. The Valide Sultan doesn't need to raise her voice. Her quiet disappointment is more terrifying than any threat. You realize that your own fate is entirely in this woman's hands. The Sultan might be the one you must please, but the Valide Sultan is the one you must survive. She is the gatekeeper. She is the protector of the dynasty, and her primary concern is not her son's romantic happiness, but the stability and continuation of the imperial line. She views every new girl not as a potential daughter-in-law, but as a potential threat, a potential rival for her son's affection and influence. And, most importantly, a potential mother to a future sultan who might one day supplant her own. Your path to power, if such a path even exists for you, does not go directly to the sultan. It goes through his mother. You must earn her notice, her utmost, her approval. To her, you are currently less than a speck of dust. But in this world built on the whims of powerful people, you understand that even a speck of dust, if it lands in the right eye, can cause a great deal of irritation. Your goal, for now, is to be the kind of dust that is so fine, so unobtrusive, that it simply settles without anyone noticing. At least, not until you are ready. Life in the harem is a strange mix of crushing boredom and simmering high-stakes ambition. For months, your days followed the same pattern: language lessons, music practice, needlework, and the endless, quiet observation of the world around you. The Sultan remains a phantom, a name spoken in hushed, reverent tones. You see his young sons sometimes, little princes in miniature turbans, being escorted through the courtyards by their tutors and unit guardians. They are the living prizes in the harem's great game. Then, one evening, the routine is broken. A quiet excitement buzzes through the dormitories. The eunuchs are more numerous, their movements more purposeful. A girl has been chosen, not from your group of newcomers, but a slightly more senior concubine, a quiet Circassian girl named Dila. You watch, fascinated, as she is taken from the common rooms and led away for hours of ritual preparation. She is bathed again, but this time with scented oils and flower petals. Her body hair is removed with a sugaring paste in a process that is both a beautification and a ritual of purification. Her hair is washed, perfumed, and intricately braided with seed pearls. Her skin is softened with lotions. Her eyelids dusted with kohl, her lips stained a deep rose color. She is being transformed from a mirror dalasque into a work of art. And then she is dressed. Not in the simple uniform of the harem, but in layers of shimmering silk. Her chosen colors are deep sapphire blue and silver. A delicate, transparent veil is placed over her face. She looks ethereal, untouchable, and terrified. You learn that she's about to walk the Al-Tiny-Ho-El, the Golden Road. This was the name given to the specific corridor that led from the heart of the harem, through the Valide Sultan's apartments, and directly to the Sultan's private chambers. It was not a long path physically, perhaps only a couple hundred feet, but it was the most significant journey a woman in the harem could ever take. The name Golden Road itself is a subject of some small historical curiosity. Many assume it was literally paved or decorated with gold, while the palace was certainly opulent. This is likely a romantic exaggeration. The name more probably referred to the golden opportunity it represented, the path to wealth, status, and power. To walk the Golden Road was to have a chance, however slim, at changing your destiny from that of a servant to that of a queen. You and the other girls are not allowed to see the procession itself, but you can feel its passage through the palace. A deep, expectant silence falls over the harem. The eunuchs clear the corridors, ensuring no one can witness the girl's journey. It is a private, almost sacred event. You can only imagine Tila, walking on soft slippers down that path, her heart hammering against her ribs, flanked by the chief eunuch, her entire future hanging in the balance of the next few hours. The protocol of this journey was incredibly rigid. The girl would be escorted to the door of the Sultan's chambers by the chief eunuch. She would wait, sometimes for a long time, until summoned. Upon entering, she was expected to approach the Sultan's bed, kiss the hem of his quilt or sofa, and crawl in at the foot, waiting for his invitation. It was a ritual designed to emphasize her subservience and his absolute authority. This practice is where a lot of the romantic, and often wildly inaccurate, Western myths about the harem originate. The image of a sultan surrounded by a sea of eager women is largely a fantasy. The process was highly regulated, controlled, and often, only one woman was presented at a time, chosen with great care by the Valide Sultan and the chief eunuch. The idea of a nightly orgy is a product of large European imagination, not historical fact. Later that night, long after you are supposed to be asleep, the dormitory door opens and Dila is brought back. She is still wearing the beautiful silk robes, but they look like a costume on a ghost. Her face is pale and streaked with tears. She doesn't speak. She simply goes to her mattress, curls into a ball, and sobs into her pillow. No one asks what happened. They don't need to. Her journey down the Golden Road was not a success. Perhaps she displeased the Sultan. Perhaps she was too nervous, too clumsy, or perhaps the Sultan was simply not in the mood. Whatever the reason, she has failed. The golden opportunity has vanished. The next day, Dila is quiet and withdrawn. She is not punished, not officially, but a subtle change occurs. The K-Elfis are a little harsher with her. The other girls, who yesterday looked at her with envy, now look at her with a mixture of pity and contempt. She is marked by her failure. Her chance has come and gone, and it will almost certainly never come again. She will live out her days in the harem, but the path to power is now closed to her forever. Watching her, you feel a profound and chilling realization. You had looked at the Golden Road as a path to glory, but now you see it for what it truly is. A tightrope walk over a canyon. Success means the world, but one stumble, one moment of imperfection, and you fall into a quiet, forgotten obscurity. For the first time, You are not entirely sure you ever want to be the one chosen to take that walk. The safety of anonymity suddenly seems like a far more precious gift than any silk robe or string of pearls. Your life continues in its quiet, observant rhythm. You are making progress. Your Turkish is becoming more fluid. Your hands are growing more nimble with the lute strings. And you have learned the names and faces of at least 50 different people who quote, with a single word, have you sent to the laundry rooms for the rest of your life. You are learning the most important skill of all, how to be a ghost in the machine. One afternoon, you are tasked with a simple errand, to deliver a small, sealed pouch of saffron from the harem's spice stores to the private kitchens of the Watery Sultan. It is a sign of trust. Saffron is more valuable than gold, and you are being trusted not to spill, lose, or heaven forbid sample it. The route takes you through a part of the harem you've never seen before, a quiet, sun-dappled courtyard reserved for the senior officials. It is here that you have your first direct, and terrifying, encounter with the K.I.Z. Aga, the chief black eunuch. He is not what you expect. You've seen him from a distance. A tall, imposing figure in flowing robes, but up close, his presence is overwhelming. He is standing in conversation with two other men, his back to you. He is dressed in pale green silk, and a large, impossibly perfect emerald gleams in his turban. Even from behind, he radiates an aura of immense, coiled power. As the absolute master of the harem's inner workings, the K.I.Z. Aga was a figure of contradictions. Eunuchs were, by their very nature, outsiders, unable to father children and create their own dynasties. This was supposed to ensure their loyalty to the Sultan's dynasty alone. However, this very status, combined with their unique access to the secluded world of the women and princes, gave them an extraordinary level of influence. They were the ultimate insiders. Historians continue to debate whether these men were tragic, mutilated figures trapped in servitude, or savvy political operators who leveraged their unique position to become kingmakers. The truth is, they were likely both. Your instructions were to be silent and invisible. You lower your gaze, press yourself against the far wall of the courtyard, and try to walk past them without making a sound. Your wooden-soled slippers, however, choose this exact moment to make a small scuffing noise on the stone. The K.I.Z. Aga stops talking. The silence he leaves behind is heavy and absolute. Slowly, he turns his head. His face is not cruel. It is something far more unnerving. It is completely, utterly impassive. His dark eyes, ancient and wary, settle on you. It feels less like a look and more like a physical weight. In that moment, your mind goes blank. All your lessons, all the protocols, they evaporate. Your heart is a frantic bird beating against your ribs. You know you are supposed to bow, to avert your eyes, to melt into the wall. But you are frozen, a deer caught in the gaze of a panther. He doesn't speak to you. He speaks to one of the men he was with. A quiet question in Turkish. Who is this one? The man, a junior eunuch, glances at you with panicked eyes. He doesn't know. You are too new, too insignificant. He stammers. She is, from the new consignment. Aga, a trainee. The K.I.Z. Aga's gaze lingers on you for a moment longer. He takes in your simple clothes, your clutched pouch of saffron, your terrified face. You feel as though he is reading your entire history. From your village by a forgotten river to this very moment of pathetic fear, he is judging your potential. Is this girl useful? Is she intelligent? Is she trainable? Or is she just another pretty face, destined for a life of anonymous servitude? This is the test. It is not a formal examination with questions and answers. It is a test of composure, of presence, and you are failing spectacularly. Then, he does something unexpected. He gives a tiny, almost imperceptible smile. It doesn't reach his eyes. It's a smile that says, I see your fear, and it amuses me. He turns back to his companions, and with a flick of his hand, dismisses you, then to her purse. The spell is broken. You force your legs to move, scurrying past them like a frightened mouse. Your head bowed so low you can feel the blood rushing to your face. You don't dare to breathe until you are around the corner, out of his sight. You lean against the cool stone wall, the pouch of saffron clutched to your chest, and take a shuddering breath. You have just met the man who holds the keys to the Golden Road. The Validis Sultan may be the queen of this kingdom, but he is her prime minister, her spy master, and her chief executioner. Heilbrunn. His approval is essential. A strange and little-known aspect of his power was his control over the harem's finances. He managed the vast estates and incomes that endowed the harem, making him not just a guardian, but an incredibly wealthy and powerful administrator in his own right. To displease him wasn't just to risk a scolding. It was to risk being cut off from the very resources needed to survive and thrive. You think you have failed his silent test. Your fear was too plain. Your reaction too clumsy. You have marked yourself as unremarkable. A frightened little thing not worth a second thought. But as you continue on your errand, a different thought begins to form. Perhaps, in a world of ambitious, scheming women, being seen as harmless and terrified is not a failure. Perhaps it's a strategy. In the dangerous game of the harem, maybe the most powerful players are the ones nobody sees as a threat. At least, not at first. You have survived your first encounter with true power, and you have learned it a valuable lesson. The most important tests are the ones you don't even know you're taking. The girl who had been brought back in tears from the Golden Road, Tyler, becomes a ghost within the harem. She moves through the days silently, her eyes perpetually downcast, a living monument to failure. The other girls, in the casual cruelty of youth and ambition, shun her. To associate with her is to be tainted by her bad luck. They whisper about her when she passes. Their laughter sharp and pointed. You, however, remember the look on her face that night. It wasn't the look of arrogance or pride brought low. It was the look of pure, desolate heartbreak. You know what it is to be alone and terrified, a stranger in a strange land. One afternoon, in the embroidery circle, Tyler fumbles her needle, pricking her finger for the third time. A drop of blood blossoms on the pristine white silk she is working on, ruining hours of labor. The supervising K Alpha lets out a hiss of pure frustration and unleashes a torrent of harsh words, calling her useless, clumsy, a waste of powerless resources. Tyler just sits there, taking the abuse, her shoulders shaking silently. The other girls pointedly stare at their own work, offering no comfort, their silence a form of condemnation. Later that day, you find her in a quiet, forgotten corner of a small courtyard, weeping into her hands. Every instinct for self-preservation you have painstakingly cultivated screams at you to walk away. Don't get involved. Don't associate with failure. But you can't. You walk over and sit down next to her. You don't say anything at first. You just sit there, sharing the silence. After a long moment, you reach into a small pouch at your waist and pull out a piece of candied fruit, a rare treat you had been saving. You hold it out to her. She looks up, her eyes red and swollen. She sees the offering and hesitates, surprised that anyone is even acknowledging her existence. Slowly, she takes it. Her fingers brush yours, and her hand is trembling. "Why?" she whispers in halting Turkish, her voice thick with tears. "Your needlework is beautiful," you say quietly, even with the accident. It's a small lie. Her work was clumsy, but it's the first kind word she has heard in weeks. It's a tiny gesture, insignificant in the grand scheme of things. In a world of political maneuvering and high-stakes gambles, offering a piece of candy to a disgraced girl is a fool's move. It earns you nothing. It risks marking you as an ally of the unfortunate. But it has an unexpected consequence. Tyler doesn't suddenly become your best friend. She is too broken for that, but a subtle connection is formed. A few days later, As you are struggling to master a particularly complex piece on the lute, she approaches you. Your third finger, she says softly. Press it here. It makes the chord cleaner. She had been a gifted musician before her fall from grace. Her small piece of advice has transformed it. The muddy chord you had been fighting with suddenly rings out clear and true. This begins a quiet, unspoken exchange. You offer her small moments of human connection, a shared smile, a safe piece of bread from dinner, and in return, she shares her knowledge. She knows things you don't. She has been in the harem longer. She understands the subtle currents of favor and displeasure. She points out which K-alpha is secretly in the pocket of which consort. She tells you which eunuch is known for carrying tales to the Watery Sultan. She explains a small, bizarre harem superstition. It was considered incredibly bad luck to trim your fingernails at night. A belief that seems nonsensical but was followed with religious fervor. The origins of this folk belief are lost to time, but it was one of 1,000 tiny rules that governed daily life. Her most valuable lesson is about the Watery Sultan. She hates the color yellow. Darla whispers to you one evening. Her greatest rival, a concubine from her own youth, always royal yellow. She will never favor a girl who reminds her of that. This is not information you would ever learn in a formal lesson. It is a piece of crucial intelligence. A key to a locked door, given to you not out of strategy, but out of a fragile, budding gratitude. The academic world often focuses on the grand rivalries of the harem, the battles between powerful consorts, like Harem Sultan and Mahidevran, for instance. But the reality of harem life was likely built on a complex web of these smaller, less dramatic alliances. Were these true friendships? Or were they pragmatic partnerships for survival? Historians debate this endlessly, as personal letters and diaries from lower-ranking women are virtually non-existent. It was likely a spectrum, with some bonds born of genuine affection and others of pure necessity. Your small act of kindness, a moment of compassion that defied the harem's cold logic, has not earned you a powerful patron or a bag of gold. It has earned you something far more valuable, a better map of the treacherous landscape you are forced to navigate. You have gained a quiet ally in a place where you thought you had none. You are still a ghost, but now you have another ghost to whisper within the shadows. And you are learning that, in the golden cage, sometimes the most significant advantages are won not through grand ambition, but through a single, unexpected act of grace. The seasons turn. The brutal heat of a Constantinople summer gives way to a cool, damp autumn. You have been in the Topkapi Palace for over a year now. You are no longer the terrified, silent girl who stumbled off the ship. Your Turkish is fluent, if accented. You can play 3 different paces on the oud without a single mistake. And your embroidery is neat and precise. You are no longer a newcomer. You are part of the harem's intricate, anonymous machinery. And then, one day, the machinery focuses on you. It happens during a small, informal gathering in one of the harem's gardens. The Watery Sultan is present, seated on a silk-draped divan, observing the younger girls. Music is being played. You are not one of the designated performers, just part of the decorative backdrop, tasked with looking pleasant and unobtrusive. But the girl who was supposed to play the oud is suddenly taken ill, her face pale with a stomach complaint. The supervising K-alpha looks around in a panic. Her eyes scan the crowd of girls. And for a terrifying, heart-stopping moment, they land on you. Dilos' quiet tutoring has not gone unnoticed. You are known to be competent. You, the K-alpha says, her voice sharp with urgency. Play something. No. There is no time to think. No time to be nervous. All your training, all those hours of repetitive practice, takes over. You pick up the instrument. Your hands are sweating, but they move with a confidence that surprises you. You don't play the complex, showy piece you have been practicing. You choose something else. A simple, haunting folk melody from your own lost homeland. You have adapted it, softened it, given it the melancholic, yearning qualities so beloved by Ottoman ears. As you play, You keep your eyes downcast, just as you were taught. The notes fill the small garden, a thread of pure, simple beauty in the perfumed air. When you finish, there is a moment of silence. You dare to flick your gaze upwards, just for a second. The Sultan is not there, but his mother, the Valide Sultan, is looking directly at you. Her expression is not one of pleasure or displeasure. It is, as always, unreadable, but she saw you. More importantly, she heard you. 2 days later, the summons comes. Not with the ceremonial slippers that is for the Sultan's bedchamber, but with a quiet command. You are to be prepared. A delegation of foreign ambassadors is being entertained, and the Sultan will be present at a small, formal banquet. The Valide Sultan has decreed that a selection of the harem's most beautiful and accomplished women are to be in attendance, as a living display of the Sultan's wealth and taste. You, the girl who played the sad song in the garden, have been added to the list. The process you witnessed with Tyler is now happening to you, but on an even grander scale. You are taken by the senior K Alphas and subjected to an almost ritualistic transformation. You are bathed in milk and honey, your skin scrubbed with ground pearls and rose water until it glows. Your hair is washed and conditioned with expensive oils, then intricately styled in a way that frames your face and accentuates the line of your neck. Then comes the wardrobe. This is not a choice you make. Your coloring, your height, your figure all are assessed by the Hosine der Aster, the mistress of the robes, a woman whose entire world is fabric, color, and soul. She circles you, her eyes narrowed in concentration, holding up different swatches of silk to your skin. She is not dressing a person. She is composing a painting. She finally makes her decision. She chooses a color that makes your eyes seem deeper, your skin more luminous. It is not the bold red or emerald green worn by the more established consorts. It is a subtle, shimmering shade of lavender, the color of twilight. Historians often note the incredible sophistication of Ottoman textile art. They had access to dyes and weaving techniques from across the globe, and a woman's dress was a complex statement of her rank, her mood, and her intentions. A seemingly minor choice of color could be a declaration of war or a subtle plea for favor. The dress itself is a masterpiece. It consists of layers, wide, flowing trousers of translucent silk, a long-sleeve chemise of the finest Egyptian cotton, and an overrobe, a kaftan, of heavy, lavender-colored velvet, its edges embroidered with silver thread and tiny seed pearls. It feels impossibly heavy and luxurious. You are given soft leather slippers and a delicate, gossamer thin veil that will cover the lower half of your face. Finally, the jewels. You are not given the large, ostentatious diamonds and emeralds of the senior women. You are adorned with something more delicate, a simple string of perfectly matched pearls for your neck, and small pearl earrings that tremble when you move. The effect is one of youthful, unspoiled elegance. One of the more peculiar aspects of this preparation is the application of perfume. You are not just dabbed with it. The scent is layered. A musk-based oil is applied to your pulse points. A floral water is misted into your hair, and a small piece of ambergris is tucked into your sash, so that you move within a cloud of complex, intoxicating fragrance. When they all finished, they hold up a full-length mirror made of polished silver. The person staring back at you is a stranger. She is beautiful, elegant, and utterly artificial. She is a work of art, created by a committee, designed for a single purpose, to be looked at. There is nothing left of the grimy girl from the ship, or even the quiet, observant student of the harem. You have been completely erased and rebuilt. As you stand there, wrapped in a dress of woven moonlight, you feel a thrill of both power and terror. You are about to be put on display, and the most important critic in the world will be in the audience. The chamber where the banquet is held is a world away from the familiar corridors of the harem. You are led there through a series of guarded passageways you never knew existed, a hidden circulatory system within the palace. The room itself is designed to inspire awe. The walls are covered in exquisite blue and white Iznik tiles, depicting intricate floral patterns and verses from the Quran in elegant calligraphy. Dozens of silver lanterns hang from the high, carved wood ceiling, their candlelight reflecting off the gilded surfaces, making the entire room shimmer with a soft, warm glow. The air is thick with the smells of roasted lamb, exotic spices, and the heady perfume of incense. You and the other chosen women are not seated at the main table. You are decorative elements, arranged artfully on low divans and cushions along the walls. Your role is to be a silent, beautiful backdrop to the main event. You are forbidden to speak unless spoken to, which is unlikely. You are to sit gracefully, your hands folded in your lap, a living testament to the Sultan's prosperity. The foreign ambassadors are there, big, bluff men from Venice and France, looking uncomfortable in their heavy woolen clothes, their faces ruddy with wine and sweat. They stare at you and the other women with a mixture of fascination and poorly concealed lust. To them, you are the ultimate Oriental fantasy come to life. You feel their eyes on you, cataloguing and appraising, and you focus on keeping your expression serene and indifferent, just as you were instructed. Then, he enters. There is no grand announcement, no fanfare of trumpets. The door opens, and the Sultan walks into the room. A sudden, profound silence falls. The loud, boisterous ambassadors stumble to their feet, bowing awkwardly. The viziers and palace officials, who had been conversing in low tones, all perform a deep, fluid bow, their hands touching their heart, their lips, and their forehead in a gesture of ultimate respect. You don't dare to look at him directly. You bow your head, your eyes fixed on the intricate pattern of the carpet in front of you. But you see him in your peripheral vision. He is not the aging, decadent figure you might have imagined from lurid tales. He is a man in his prime, tall and broad-shouldered, radiating an aura of absolute, unshakable authority. He wears a kaftan of deep crimson silk, and a single, enormous diamond glitters on the front of his turban, catching the candlelight and scattering it like stars. He takes his seat at the head of the low table, and with a slight gesture, gives everyone permission to be seated. The meal begins. Course after course is brought in on large silver trays. Roasted fowl, pilaf studded with jewels of fruit and nuts, delicate pastries filled with cheese and honey. The Sultan eats very little. He presides, his presence dominating the room more than any words could. Your heart is a frantic drum against your ribs. This is the moment. The reason for the dress. The pearls, the perfume. You are on display. You try to control your breathing, to appear as calm and graceful as the other women, some of whom are established consorts who have been through this 100 times. They look bored. You feel like you are about to shatter. An interesting detail of court etiquette during this period, one that scholars find both revealing and slightly amusing, is the language of the handkerchief. It was considered improper for the Sultan to openly address a new concubine in such a public setting. If a particular woman caught his eye, he would, at some point, discreetly drop his handkerchief near her. A eunuch would later retrieve it and deliver it to the fortunate or unfortunate girl. A silent, elegant summons. The historical accuracy of this specific gesture is debated, with some seeing it as a later romantic invention. But the need for a subtle, non-verbal system of communication was very real. You keep your gaze demurely lowered, but through your lashes. You watch him. He listens to his Grand Vizier. He nods at a comment from the French ambassador, but his eyes are constantly moving, scanning the room, taking in every detail. It is a practiced, almost predatory gaze. He is a man accustomed to owning everything he sees. And then it happens. His eyes sweep across the line of women. They pass over the stunning redhead known for her sharp wit. They linger for a moment on a graceful brunette who is a famed dancer. And then, they stop. On you. For a single, eternal second, the entire, glittering, noisy room melts away. There is only his gaze. It is not warm, not lustful, not even particularly kind. It is a look of intense, focused curiosity. It's the look of a collector who has just spotted a rare, unexpected specimen. He is looking at you, the girl in the twilight lavender dress, the girl who played the sad song, the girl who is so terrified she thinks she might faint. And in his eyes, you see a flicker of something, interest. He doesn't drop a handkerchief. He doesn't smile or nod. He simply looks at you for a heartbeat longer than he looks at anyone else. Then, his gaze moves on. The moment is over. But it's enough. The air around you has changed. The other women have noticed. You can feel it. The casual indifference of the established consorts is sharpened into a keen, cold assessment. The other girls on display with you, who were your equals just a moment ago, now look at you with a new and dangerous emotion. Envy. The Grand Vizier is speaking, but you don't hear a word. Your entire world has tilted on its axis. You have been in the harem for over a year, a nameless, faceless girl learning to survive. But in a single, silent moment, with a single look from a man who holds the world in his hands, everything has changed. You are no longer anonymous. You have been seen. And in the Topkapi Harem, being seen is the most wonderful and the most terrifying thing that can possibly happen. The banquet ends. You are escorted back to the harem in a daze, the ghost of the Sultan's gaze still burning on your skin. The lavender dress is taken from you. The pearls are unclasped, and you are once again a simple girl in a plain cotton chemise. But something is irrevocably different. The way the K-Alphas look at you has changed. There is a new deference in their eyes, a subtle respect that was not there before. The whispers follow you down the corridors, and this time, they are about you. You expect something to happen immediately, a summons, the ceremonial slippers, but there is nothing. A day passes, then another. The fragile hope that had ignited in your chest begins to flicker and dim, replaced by a familiar, gnawing anxiety. Did you imagine it? Was that fleeting moment of attention just a trick of the candlelight? Then, on the evening of the third day, it comes. Not the slippers, but a quiet visit from one of the Valide Sultan's personal attendants. She informs you, in a voice devoid of all emotion, that you are to be prepared. The Sultan has requested your company tonight. The frantic, ritualistic beautification process begins all over again. The bath, the oils, the perfumes. This time, the dress is a deep, midnight blue, the color of the night sky, embroidered with tiny silver stars. It's a deliberate choice, symbolic and poetic. When you are ready, you are not left in the dormitory. You are taken to a small, richly appointed waiting room near the Valide Sultan's own chambers. You sit alone on a plush divan, your hands clenched so tightly in your lap that your knuckles are white. The silence in the room is absolute, broken only by the frantic pounding of your own heart. After what feels like an eternity, the chief eunuch himself, the Kicu or Aga, enters the room. He looks at you. His face the same impassive mask it was in the courtyard that day, but his eyes seem to hold a glimmer of something, perhaps approval, perhaps just professional interest. It is time, he says simply. He leads you out of the room and into the corridor. And there it is, the Golden Road. It's not as opulent as you had imagined. The walls are decorated with beautiful tiles and gilded fretwork, but it is its narrowness, its intimacy, that is most striking. It feels less like a royal passageway and more like a secret artery, leading to the very heart of the palace. As you walk, your silk slippers making no sound on the priceless carpets, you are acutely aware of the history beneath your feet. For centuries, women have walked this same path, filled with the same mixture of terror and hope. Some were destined to become powerful empresses who would change the course of history. Others, like Dila, were destined for heartbreak and obscurity. And some, as the old woman in the bathage had whispered, We're destined for a cold, dark end in the waters of the Bosporus. The weight of all their stories seems to press down on you. The chief eunuch walks ahead of you, his pace measured and slow. The journey is short, but it feels as though you are walking for miles. A strange, trivial detail lodges in your mind, the scent of the corridor. It's a mixture of beeswax from the polished floors and a faint, lingering trace of the Sultan's personal incense. A heavy, musky scent of oud and amber. It is the smell of power. This journey is the source of much academic speculation. While the general route is known, the precise rituals are a matter of some debate. Some sources claim the woman was required to walk with her head bowed the entire way. Others suggest she was veiled until the last possible moment. These details are likely lost to time, embellished by storytellers over the centuries, but they all point to the same truth. This was a ritual of profound submission. Finally, you arrive. Before you is a set of tall, heavy doors, inlaid with mother-of-pearl and tortoiseshell. The chief eunuch stops and turns to you. He gives you one final, searching look. He says nothing, offers no words of encouragement or advice. He simply gives a slight, almost imperceptible nod towards the door, then turns and retreats back down the corridor, his form dissolving into the shadows. You are alone. You stand before the doors to the Sultan's private chambers, the epicenter of the entire Ottoman Empire. The silence is no longer just quiet. It is a living, breathing entity. It is the most terrifying silence you have ever known. You can hear the blood roaring in your ears. Your mouth is dry. Your palms are slick with sweat. Every instinct screams at you to turn and run. Back to the anonymity of the dormitories. Back to the safety of being invisible. But you know you cannot. Your entire life, from the moment you were stolen from your home to this very second, has led you to this door. Behind it lies a future you cannot predict. A world of unimaginable possibilities and unimaginable dangers. You take a slow, shuddering breath, trying to recall the lessons on composure, on grace, on stillness. You smooth down the front of your dress. A small, useless gesture of normalcy in a moment that is anything but. You raise your hand. Not to knock, you would never dare, but simply to wait. You stand there, a silent offering in the terrible, hallowed quiet of the Golden Road, waiting for the door to open, waiting for your new life to begin. The doors swing inward without a sound, opened by unseen hands. You step across the threshold, and the world changes. The Sultan's private chambers are not one room, but a suite of them, and they are breathtaking. The air is warm and heavily scented with the same amber and oud incense you smelled in the corridor. Light from a dozen silver lanterns casts a soft, honeyed glow over everything. The floors are covered in carpets so thick your slippers sink into them. The walls are a symphony of tile work, calligraphy, and gilded wood. Low divans piled high with jewel-toned silk and velvet cushions line the walls, and small, intricately inlaid tables hold trays of fruit, sweets, and cold sherbet in crystal decanters. In the center of the main room, a fountain murmurs softly, the sound of its splashing water a calming counterpoint to the frantic beating of your heart. It's a space designed for ultimate comfort and sensory pleasure. The Sultan is reclining on a large divan, propped up by a mountain of cushions. He has changed from his formal banquet attire into a simpler, loose-fitting kaftan of dark silk. He is not looking at you. He is reading a book. Its page is illuminated by a candle in a jeweled holder. You remember your training. You walk slowly, silently, towards him. Every step feels heavy, deliberate. You stop a few feet from the divan, sink into a low, graceful curtsy, and, as protocol dictates, you keep your eyes fixed on the floor. You wait in silence. After a moment that stretches into an eternity, you hear the soft rustle of silk as he moves. "Look at me," he says. His voice is quiet, a low baritone, but it resonates with an undeniable authority. Slowly, you lift your head and meet his gaze. Up close, His eyes are even more intense. They are dark, intelligent, and carry the weary weight of a man who commands an empire. There are fine lines at their corners. From smiling or from squinting at battle plans, you cannot tell. He studies your face, his expression unreadable. You are the one who played the song in the garden, he says. It is not a question. It was a sad melody, from your homeland. You are so shocked that he remembers, so shocked that he is speaking to you like a person, that you almost forget to answer. Yes, Your Majesty. You manage to whisper, your voice barely audible. What is your name? You tell him the name they gave you in the harem, a pretty, melodic Turkish name that has never felt like your own. And your real name, the one your mother gave you. This question undoes you. No one has asked you that since you were captured. The sound of your own true name, spoken aloud in this opulent prison, feels like a betrayal of your past and a miracle all at once. You tell him, your voice trembling slightly. He nods, as if filing the information away. He pats the space on the divan next to him. Sit. It is a breach of all protocol. You are supposed to remain at his feet. But it is a command from the Sultan, and his commands supersede everything. You move to the divan and sit gingerly on its edge, your back rumbled straight, terrified of wrinkling the silk or doing anything that might displease him. The night passes in a strange, surreal haze. He does not treat you like a plaything. He talks to you. He asks you about your home, about the journey, about your lessons. He seems genuinely curious, not just about your body, but about your mind. This, more than anything, is what disarms you. You had been prepared for a ritual of submission, for a physical transaction. You were not prepared for a conversation. As the first hint of dawn streaks the sky, he claps his hands, and attendants appear as if from nowhere. You are escorted out of his chambers and back to the harem, your mind reeling. The next day, your world is transformed. You are no longer an Adalaske. You are a Gozi dear favored one, or literally, the one in the eye. You are moved from the crowded dormitory into a small, private apartment. It's not large, just a sitting room and a bedroom, but it is yours alone. You are assigned to personal servants, young girls who were, just yesterday, your peers. Now they bow to you and call you Sultan, my lady. And the gifts begin to arrive, trays of exotic sweets, bolts of the finest silk, a small, beautifully crafted jewelry box containing a pair of sapphire earrings. These are not just presents, they are public declarations of your new status. Every gift that enters your chamber is noted by the 100 pairs of eyes that watch everything in the harem. The envy is now a palpable force. It's in the way the other girls fall silent when you enter a room. It's in the tight, false smiles at the chaos. It's in the cold, assessing glare of the more established consorts. The IKBLs and Cardenas, who see you not as a person, but as a new and dangerous competitor on the board. A particularly strange, and somewhat petty, manifestation of this new status is the slipper hierarchy. It's a historical detail that feels almost comical, but was deadly serious. The quality and height of your indoor slippers, or turliks, was a direct reflection of your rank. As a Gozid, you are now permitted to wear slippers with a slightly raised, embroidered heel, a privilege denied to the common Odalaske. To wear a heel higher than your station allowed was a grave, and sometimes punishable, offense. The harem was a world where status was coded into every detail, right down to your footwear. The established consorts, women who had borne the Sultan children, wore slippers with even higher, pearl-inlaid platforms. They glide through the harem, literally looking down on everyone else. You are now part of this bizarre, unspoken ladder of power. You are living in a dream of silk and sherbet, but you are smart enough to know that dreams can end. Your position is incredibly precarious. You are a Gozid, a favorite, but you have no real power. Your status is entirely dependent on the continued whim of one man. If his gaze turns away, all of this, the apartment, the servants, the jewels will vanish as quickly as it appeared. You have taken your first step up the ladder, but the rungs are slippery, and the air is getting thin. Your newfound status is a warm cloak, but it's woven with threads of pure poison. The envy that surrounds you is no longer a passive force. It begins to take an active, dangerous shape. The other women, especially those who were once your equals, now see you as an obstacle. The established consorts, the mothers of princes, view you with a cold, calculating disdain. You are a distraction for the Sultan, a temporary amusement, but they are also wary. Because every great power in the harem started out as a temporary amusement. The first direct challenge comes not as a shouted threat or a physical confrontation. Such things are too crude for the sophisticated warfare of the harem. It comes as a gift. One afternoon, a servant arrives at your new apartment bearing a lavishly wrapped package. It is from a woman named Elisa. Another Gozidi who had caught the Sultan's eye a few months before you. She is a beautiful Albanian with eyes the color of jade, and she has not taken kindly to sharing the Sultan's attention. Your servants excitedly unwrap the gift. Inside, nestled on a bed of silk, is a magnificent hand mirror. The back is made of solid silver, intricately carved with a pattern of swirling roses and nightingales. The handle is inlaid with ivory and turquoise. It is a gift of stunning beauty and expanse. How kind of her, Sultan one of your servants gushes, clearly impressed. But you are not a fool. You have been studying this world for more than a year. You know that in the harem. A gift is never just a gift. It is a message, a challenge, or a threat. You take the mirror, your mind racing. It's beautiful, too beautiful. It's a gift far too extravagant for a woman of her standing to give to a woman of yours. It is a power move, designed to indebt you, to make you seem less generous in comparison. You examine it closely. The craftsmanship is perfect. The silver gleams. You turn it over to look at your reflection, and your heart gives a sudden, cold lurch. There, almost invisible to the naked eye, is a tiny, hairline crack running through the glass, right across the part where your throat would be reflected. It's a masterpiece of malice. A subtle, terrifying threat delivered with a smile. To a casual observer, it's a magnificent present. But you, the intended recipient, are meant to see that tiny crack. You are meant to understand the message. You are flawed. You will be broken. What do you do? To reject the gift would be a public declaration of hostility. A grave insult that would mark you as paranoid and ungrateful. Elisa could then play the victim, earning sympathy while painting you as the aggressor. To accept it, and to be seen using a cracked mirror, would be to tacitly accept her curse. To show weakness, it's a brilliant, deadly trap. This is the point where the historical record often fails us. We have accounts of grand political schemes and dynastic struggles. But the day-to-day texture of these personal rivalries is much harder to reconstruct. Historians debate how much of the harem intrigue narrative is an Oriental's fantasy and how much reflects the grim reality of a closed, competitive system. The evidence suggests that while outright violence was rare, this kind of psychological warfare using symbolism and social exclusion was a highly developed art form. You think for a long time, the cold, heavy mirror in your hands. Then, an idea comes to you. Inspired by the quiet lessons Dyla had taught you about turning a disadvantage into an opportunity. You summon one of your servants. Please convey my deepest thanks to the Lady Elisa. You say, your voice calm and steady, and send her a small token of my gratitude. You do not try to match her extravagance. That would be playing her game. Instead, you select a small, beautifully embroidered silk pouch from your own collection. Inside, you place not jewels or gold, but something far more potent. You put in a single, perfect, unblemished pearl, and beside it, a dried sprig of rue. The meaning is layered, and only a student of the harem's subtle language would understand it. The pearl represents purity and value, a quiet rebuttal to her suggestion that you are flawed. But the sprig of rue is the master stroke. Rue was a common herb, but it had a very specific, well-known symbolic meaning in Ottoman folklore. It was used to ward off the evil eye. An odd but fascinating tidbit of harem life was the pervasive belief in curses, omens, and protective talismans. Women would sew blue beads into their children's clothes to protect against envy, and the gift of rue was an unmistakable signal. Your message to Elisa is devastatingly clear. It says, "Thank you for your beautiful gift. I see the evil intent behind it, and I am protecting myself from it. Your curse has no power over me." You have not rejected her gift. You have not insulted her directly. You have simply returned her serve with a calm, lethal precision. You have taken her poisoned offering and skillfully extracted the venom, showing her that you are not the naive newcomer she thought you were. You are a player. When your servant returns, she reports that Elisa took the pouch, looked inside, and her beautiful face paled. She said nothing. The message had been received. You have survived your first social attack. You take the beautiful, cracked mirror and you don't throw it away. You place it on your dressing table, with the crack turned towards the wall. It is no longer a threat. It is a reminder that in this glittering, treacherous world, beauty is a weapon, and kindness can be a mask for cruelty, and the most dangerous threats are the ones that come wrapped in silk. Your life settles into a new, precarious rhythm. You are summoned to the Sultan's chambers regularly, and with each visit, your confidence grows. You learn his moods, his passions, the small things that make him smile. You are no longer just a body to him. You are a companion, a confidant, a small island of peace in his turbulent world. This intimacy grants you a new perspective. You begin to see the harem not just as a gilded cage or a battlefield of rivals, but as the hidden engine of the empire. From your small apartment, you start to feel the faint tremors of the vast political machine to which you are now connected. You learn this through observation. You see how the Watery Sultan, your ultimate gatekeeper, uses her influence. When a petition arrives from a group of merchants complaining about a new tax, it is formally presented to the Grand Vizier, but you witness a quiet conversation between the Vizier and the chief eunuch in a secluded courtyard. Later that day, the chief eunuch has a long, private meeting with the Watery Sultan, and that evening, when you are with the Sultan, he casually mentions that his mother thinks the new tax is an unnecessary burden on the city estrade. 2 days later, the tax is repealed. No official order was given from the harem. No woman sat in the Imperial Council, but power was exercised, invisibly and undeniably. This period, often called the Sultanate of Women by historians, was a unique era where the seclusion of the harem, intended to neutralize the women within it, paradoxically concentrated their power, because they had unparalleled access to the reigning sultan and his future heirs. Their influence was immense. The extent of this power is a source of continuous academic debate. Were these women true political partners, or were their interventions limited to personal matters and palace intrigue? Some scholars argue that figures like Hurrem Sultan or Qasim Sultan were de facto rulers, governing through their husbands and sons. Others maintain their influence was overstated by critics at the time, who were scandalized by the idea of women meddling in state affairs. The truth, as is often the case, is likely somewhere in the middle. They were not prime ministers, but they were far more than simple concubines. You begin to understand the different factions. The most powerful women in the harem are the Hosekai Sultans, the chief consorts, mothers of the eldest princes. Each one is the head of her own household, with her own staff, her own budget, and her own political agenda, which is, quite simply, to ensure her own son inherits the throne. You see it in the small things. One Hosekai, the mother of the eldest prince, might be known to favor a certain general. Suddenly, that general finds his troops better supplied, his name mentioned favorably to the Sultan. Another Hosekai, whose son is younger, might cultivate alliances with powerful religious leaders, hoping to build a base of support for the future. A strange but telling example of this influence was the coffee controversy. When coffee was first introduced to the empire, some hardline clerics declared it an intoxicant, and therefore forbidden. However, it quickly became the favorite beverage of the harem. The women's demand for it, and their subsequent influence on their husbands and sons, played a significant, if unofficial, role in coffee becoming a socially acceptable and ubiquitous part of Ottoman life. The great matters of state could sometimes be influenced by the small matters of taste. You are not yet a player in this grand game. You are a pawn, and a very exposed one at that. But you are the Sultan's favorite pawn, and that gives you a unique, if dangerous, position. Powerful men from the outer court, Vizier Recent Pause has, begin to send you gifts. A bolt of Venetian lace from a sea captain seeking a favorable trade ruling. A rare white falcon from a provincial governor hoping for a promotion. They are not trying to bribe you directly. They know you have no formal power. They are trying to buy your voice, hoping you might whisper a favorable word into the Sultan's ear during a quiet moment. Dilo, your quiet friend, gives you a crucial piece of advice. Accept the gifts, she whispers, but never ask for anything. Let them think you are helping them, but never be seen to do so. The moment the Sultan thinks you are a mouthpiece for another man, you are worthless to him. It is a knife's edge to walk. You are beginning to wield a borrowed power, a reflected glory. When you pass through the corridors, people bow lower. Your requests to the kitchens are filled faster. You have a voice that is listened to, not because of who you are, but because of whose ear you have. You are no longer just a woman in a gilded cage. You are becoming part of the gilded mechanism itself. A small but crucial cog in the invisible government that is the Imperial Harem. The view from this new height is intoxicating, but you are keenly aware that the higher you climb, the further you have to fall. The favor of the Sultan is a warm, intoxicating sun, but you quickly learn that its light is not enough to secure your place in the harem. To be a ghazidi is to be a flower, beautiful and admired, but temporary, to truly last. To gain real power and security, you must become a root. You must bear a child, a son. This pressure begins as a subtle undercurrent and quickly grows into an overwhelming, all-consuming wave. It comes from everywhere. The Validi Sultan, who was once coolly observant, now looks at you with a new, intense scrutiny every time you cross her path. Her gaze seems to penetrate your very womb, searching for any sign of a dynastic future. She is no longer just assessing your beauty or your manners. She is assessing your biological potential. The other women in the harem, your rivals, watch you with the same hawk-like intensity. Every month that passes without an announcement is a small victory for them. They whisper in the Baltish, their voices dripping with faint sympathy. Poor thing, you overhear one say, the Sultan favors her, but the branch is barren. Even your own servants, whose loyalty is tied to your success, become part of the pressure. They bring you special foods, fertility charms, and old wives' tales in the form of teas and poultices. They offer up prayers on your behalf. Their concern is genuine, but it's also self-serving. You rise as they rise. Your fall would be their demotion back to scrubbing floors. The entire harem is a hothouse designed for procreation. The ultimate purpose of this vast, complex institution, with all its art, music, and intrigue, is to produce male heirs for the Ottoman dynasty. A woman's body is not her own. It is a vessel for the continuation of an imperial line. Her worth, in the bluntest possible terms, is measured by her ability to conceive and deliver a healthy boy. This reality led to some practices that seem bizarre to the modern mind. For example, there was a deeply ingrained belief in the power of imprinting. It was thought that if a pregnant woman looked upon beautiful things art, gardens, even beautiful people, her child would be born more beautiful and virtuous. Consequently, The apartments of pregnant consorts were filled with the most exquisite objects, and they were discouraged from looking at anything or anyone deemed ugly or upsetting. While scientifically baseless, this belief underscores the immense psychological burden placed on these women. Every single aspect of their lives was managed and manipulated for the sake of the unborn child. The pressure affects your relationship with the Sultan. Your time together is no longer just about companionship and conversation. It is now freighted with a desperate, unspoken purpose. Every encounter is a gamble, a roll of the biological dice. You begin to chart the cycles of your own body with an almost religious devotion, a secret calendar of hope and dread. The weeks turn into months. Your favor with the Sultan remains strong, but your womb remains empty. A quiet desperation begins to set in. You see other girls, less favored, less beautiful, begin to show the first telltale signs of pregnancy. You see them being moved to the luxurious apartments reserved for expectant mothers, their diets carefully monitored, their every whim catered to, and with each one, a knot of envy and fear tightens in your stomach. You start to notice the subtle shifts in the harem's currents. The powerful vizier who sent you the White Falcon now sends his gifts to a different Gozd, one who is rumored to be with child. Your influence, which is merely a reflection of the Sultan's affection, is seen as transient. The influence of a woman carrying a potential heir is seen as a long-term investment. The historical debate around this issue is a sensitive one. Some feminist historians argue that pregnancy and childbirth were the only avenues to true agency and power for these women, a way for them to transcend their status as property. Other scholars point out that this reduces women to their biological function and that it was a power that came at an immense physical and emotional cost, trapping them even more securely within the dynastic system. Both perspectives hold a great deal of truth. One night, you are with the Sultan. He is quiet, withdrawn. He says, "My mother is asking about you." She grows impatient. It's not a threat, but it's a warning. The Valide Sultan's patience is the sand in the hourglass of your career. When it runs out, your time as a favorite is over. You will not be punished or cast out. Not necessarily. You might simply be pensioned off, given a quiet life of comfortable obscurity within the harem. Another pretty flower that failed to bear fruit. To some, this might seem a gentle fate. But to you, having tasted the heady wine of influence and intimacy, it feels like a death sentence. You lie awake in your silent, lonely apartment, your hand resting on your flat stomach. It feels like a betrayal. Your own body, the very thing that brought you to the Sultan's attention, is now failing you. The pressure is immense, a physical weight that makes it hard to breathe. In this golden cage, your beauty and intelligence have taken you as far as they can. To go any further, to secure your future and to survive, you need more. You need a son, and you are beginning to fear that it is the one thing you will never have. And then, one morning, the world feels different. It starts with a wave of nausea that leaves you dizzy and weak. At first, you dismiss it as a bad piece of fish from the night before, but then it happens again the next day, and the next. A strange metallic taste lingers in your mouth. Your sense of smell, always keen, becomes almost unnaturally sharp. The heavy incense you once found intoxicating now makes your stomach churn. A fragile, terrifying hope begins to bloom in your chest. You don't dare to speak of it. You keep it locked away, a secret too precious and too fragile to expose to the light. You confide in no one, not even Dyla. The harem is a world of whispers, and you know that a rumored pregnancy is almost as dangerous as a confirmed one. It would attract the focused, malevolent envy of every rival. You wait. You wait through another cycle of the moon, your heart in your throat. When it does not come, you allow yourself a small, secret moment of joy, a joy so profound it feels like a physical pain. When you are certain, you know you cannot keep it to yourself any longer. The protocol is rigid. You must first inform the Chief K-Alpha, the head mistress of the harem. You approach her with a carefully rehearsed calm, your voice steady despite the frantic fluttering in your chest. Her reaction is not one of warmth or congratulations. It is one of brisk, professional seriousness. She summons the harem's chief midwife, an old, formidable woman with hands like gnarled roots and eyes that have seen everything. The examination is swift and clinical. The midwife places a hand on your lower abdomen, her touch surprisingly gentle. And after a long, silent moment, she gives a curt nod to the chief K-Alpha. It is confirmed. The news spreads through the harem not like a whisper, but like a thunderclap. Suddenly, everything changes. You are no longer just a ghost ED. You are now an IKBL, a fortunate or favored consort. It is a trauma. Recognized rank. It means you are no longer just a passing fancy. You are a woman of consequence. A vessel of the dynasty's future. You are immediately moved from your small, pleasant apartment to a grander suite of rooms in the section of the harem known as the favorites wing. Your staff is increased. You are assigned your own personal physician, your own treasurer to manage your now significant household allowance, and a small army of servants dedicated to your every need. The Valide Sultan herself summons you. She doesn't smile, but the icy disapproval in her eyes has melted, replaced by a look of intense, proprietary interest. You are now a valuable asset to her, to the family. She lectures you on your diet, on the need for rest, on the importance of avoiding any and all stress. Her concern is not for you, the person, but for the precious cargo you carry. You are the incubator, and she is the chief investor. Your life becomes a cocoon of pampered isolation. You are discouraged from strenuous activity. Your diet is carefully controlled. A bizarre and fascinating aspect of this was the craving protocol. It was believed that a pregnant woman's cravings were a direct communication from the unborn child about its needs. Therefore, a team of cooks was on standby 24/7 to satisfy any whim, no matter how strange. If an IKBL craved unripe figs from Syria in the middle of a winter snowstorm, the palace would spare no expense to try and procure them. The state treasury was, in essence, at the service of your appetite. This elevation in status is a double-edged sword. You are safer in some ways, protected by the full might of the dynasty, but you are also a much larger target. The other consorts, especially those who are already mothers of princes, now see you as a direct threat to their own son's standing. The silent war of the harem intensifies. You are certain the food you eat is being tasted by 3 different people before it reaches your lips. Your servants eye every visitor with suspicion. The historical reality of being an IKBL is complex. While it brought immense privilege, it also brought immense pressure. The mortality rate for both mothers and infants was high, and a woman's status was contingent on a successful delivery. A miscarriage or a stillbirth would be a devastating personal tragedy, but also a catastrophic political failure. There's a debate among historians about the fate of an IKBL who lost her child. Some sources suggest they were treated with compassion and allowed to try again. Others hint at a crueler reality, where a woman who failed to deliver might be quietly pensioned off or sent away to the old palace, her time in the sun finished for good. As your body changes, your perspective shifts. The harem, which once seemed so vast and intimidating, now feels like a small, claustrophobic stage. Your world has shrunk to the confines of your suite. Your concerns narrow to the tiny, fluttering life inside you. You spend your days embroidering baby clothes, listening to soft music, and walking in a secluded garden reserved for expectant mothers. You have finally achieved the one thing every woman in the harem dreams of. You have become an IKBL. You have gone from being a piece on the board to a player. You are carrying a potential prince, a future sultan. You have never been more powerful, and you have never been more vulnerable. Your body is no longer your own, and your future, and the future of the child inside you, depends entirely on the one thing you cannot control: fate. The months of your pregnancy pass in a blur of pampered seclusion. You are a precious vessel, shielded from the outside world, your every need met before you can even voice it. Your son is born on a rainy spring morning, his first cry echoing through the silent, waiting halls of the harem. He is healthy, strong, and undeniably the Sultan's child. With that first cry, your status solidifies from fragile glass into hard diamond. You are no longer just an IKBL. You are now a Hosekai, a chief consort, the mother of a SCH Said, a prince. You have given the dynasty its most precious gift, and the rewards are immediate and immense. Your household allowance is doubled. You are given an entire wing of the palace for you and your son's household. You are now, unequivocally, one of the most powerful women in the Ottoman Empire. This power, however, is not the kind wielded by men with armies and edicts. It is a subtle, indirect power, and your greatest weapon is information. Your new position gives you access to the deepest currents of palace life. People want your favor, and the currency they use to buy it is secrets. One evening, a high-ranking court official, the Minister of the Treasury, requests a private audience. This in itself is a sign of your new standing. He is a man you once would have bowed to in the corridors. Now, he comes to you. He brings lavish gifts for your son, a miniature horse carved from jade, a blanket woven with gold thread. After the pleasantries, he gets to the point. He is locked in a power struggle with the Grand Vizier. He believes the Vizier is secretly funneling money from the state coffers to fund his own private enterprises. He has suspicions, but no proof. He is asking for your help. He knows that the Watery Sultan holds regular, informal audits of the palace accounts with the chief eunuch. He is hoping you can persuade the Watery Sultan to look more closely at the Vizier's ledgers. It is a dangerous request. The Grand Vizier is the second most powerful man in the empire. To move against him is to risk making a formidable enemy. But the treasurer is also powerful, and if he is right, exposing the Vizier would be a huge coup, indebting the treasurer to you and increasing your own influence. You are no longer the naive girl who was frozen with fear by the Kizila Agha's gaze. You have learned the game. You agree to nothing. You simply listen. Your face a mask of polite interest. But you have been given a piece of knowledge, a loaded weapon. A few days later, you are taking tea with the Watery Sultan. This is now a regular occurrence. She is besotted with her new grandson. And you have become, by extension, a person she must tolerate and even cultivate. Your conversation is, as always, about trivialities. The health of the baby, the quality of the new silk shipment from Bursa. You wait for the right moment. Then, with a carefully practiced innocence, you say, "My own household treasurer was telling me the most fascinating thing. Followed him. He said the cost of feed for the Imperial stables has nearly doubled in the past year. Isn't it strange how even the price of hay can become so inflated?" You do not mention the Grand Vizier. You do not mention the Treasury Minister. You simply plant a seed. You know the Watery Sultan's mind is sharp, and her primary concern is the preservation of the dynasty's wealth and power. An unexplained doubling in cost, no matter how trivial the item, will be like a stone in her shoe. She will not rest until she understands it. She gives you a sharp, appraising look. "Then do," she says slowly. "How very curious." You have just engaged in a classic harem power play. This indirect method of wielding influence is what makes studying the harem so difficult for historians. The most significant political moves were often made in these quiet, domestic settings, leaving no official paper trail. The debate rages on. Was this a sign of a dysfunctional shadow government, or was it a surprisingly effective, informal system of checks and balances on the official male power structure? There's no easy answer. A week passes. Then, news ripples through the palace. The Grand Vizier has been suddenly and unexpectedly retired from his post for health reasons. He is sent to a comfortable but powerless exile on an estate hundreds of miles from the capital. The Minister of the Treasury is promoted to his position. He sends you a gift, a single, perfect, Flawless diamond the size of a pigeon's egg. There is no note. None is needed. A little-known aspect of this internal intelligence network was the role of the harem servants, the lower-ranking girls. The odalisques and maids were largely invisible to the powerful men of the court, but they heard everything. They heard the guards gossiping, the ministers complaining, the delivery men haggling. A smart Hosekai would cultivate a network of these girls, rewarding them for interesting tidbits of information. It was a sophisticated, female-run espionage system operating right under the noses of the Empire's most powerful men. You have won. You have removed a powerful piece from the board and replaced him with one loyal to you. You have done it without ever raising your voice, signing an order, or even being seen to be involved. You have used a secret, a piece of knowledge, as your weapon. The diamond that now sits in your jewelry box is beautiful, but it is not the true prize. The prize is the quiet, thrilling hum of your own growing power. You have a son. You have status. And now, you have secrets. In the world of the Topkapi Palace, this makes you a queen in all but name. Time, in the harem, is a strange, elastic thing. Years can pass in a monotonous blur of ritual and routine, and then history can pivot on a single, misplaced word. Your son grows from a baby into a bright, curious boy. He is strong and healthy, the apple of the Sultan's eye. You are secure, respected, and powerful. Your life is a tapestry woven from silk, influence, and the fierce, protective love you have for your child. The Sultan is aging. The iron strength you once saw in him is beginning to soften. His beard is more grey than black, and a weariness has settled deep in his eyes with his aging. The most dangerous of all palace games begins in earnest, the game of succession. The empire has no rule of primogeniture, where the eldest son automatically inherits. The throne is, in theory, open to any of the Sultan's sons. This system, designed to ensure the most capable heir would rule, was also a recipe for paranoia and bloodshed. Upon ascending the throne, a new sultan would often execute all of his brothers and their sons to eliminate any potential rivals. This practice, known as dynastic fratricide, is one of the most brutal and controversial aspects of Ottoman history. While it was legally sanctioned for a time, scholars still debate how consistently it was applied in the psychological toll it took on the imperial family. Your son is not the eldest. That distinction belongs to Mustafa, the son of your old rival. Olisa, Mustafa is a young man now, handsome and popular with the army. Olisa, his mother, has been your nemesis for years, a constant, simmering presence of hostility. Your own son, Ahmed, is younger, but he is widely considered to be more scholarly and intelligent, the favored child of the Sultan's later years. The court is divided into factions, lining up behind one prince or the other. The tension is a poison that seeps into every corner of the palace. Every conversation is freighted with hidden meaning. Every alliance is suspect. One evening, you are with the Sultan in his private gardens. He is in a reflective, melancholy mood, talking about the future of the empire. He speaks of his admiration for Mustafa's military prowess, but also of his frustration with the young man's rash and arrogant nature. Then, he speaks of your son, Ahmed. His voice softens. He praises Ahmed's intelligence, his caution, his love of poetry and history. He has the mind of a ruler, the Sultan says, almost to himself. Mustafa has the spirit of a soldier. A soldier can win a battle, but it takes a ruler to build an empire. In that moment, a wave of triumphant joy washes over you. It is the closest he has ever come to declaring his preference. Your son, he sees your son as his true heir. And then, you make a mistake. A small, but fatal error, born of love and pride. You say, Ahmed would rule with wisdom and justice. Your Majesty, he has your heart, and the people would see that. He is the future. It's a simple statement of support, a mother's praise for her son. But, in the charged atmosphere of the succession struggle, it is a catastrophic miscalculation. You have crossed an invisible line. You have moved from being a quiet confidant to an active lobbyist. You have tried to put your finger on the scales of destiny. The Sultan's mood shifts instantly. The warmth vanishes from his eyes, replaced by a cold, hard look you have not seen in years. He turns to you, and his voice is dangerously quiet. "The future of the empire is forgotten for me to decide," he says. "Not for you." He stands up and walks away, leaving you alone in the cooling evening air. The scent of jasmine suddenly cloying on funereal. Your heart plummets. You have overplayed your hand. You have reminded him that you are not just a loving companion. You are a political animal with your own agenda. You have shown your ambition not for yourself, but for your son, which in his eyes is even more dangerous. A weird, niche aspect of harem politics was the etiquette of praise. It was considered incredibly poor form and deeply suspicious for a mother to praise her own son directly to the Sultan. It was seen as self-serving and manipulative. Instead, a clever Hosekai would arrange for others a trusted vizier or respected tutor, even the Watery Sultan herself, to sing her son's praises, while she remained humbly silent. It was a game of ventriloquisms, where your ambitions had to be spoken through other mouths. You, in a moment of emotional honesty, broke that cardinal rule. The fallout is not immediate, but it is inexorable. You have shattered the delicate illusion of your relationship. You have reminded the Sultan that his palace of pleasure is also a nest of vipers, and that you are one of them. He is an old, paranoid ruler, surrounded by people who want something from him. He had thought, perhaps, that you were different. Now he knows you are not. You try to repair the damage. You are more demure, more attentive. But something has broken between you. A subtle distance has grown. He still summons you, but the easy intimacy is gone, replaced by a formal, weary politeness. He has put a wall around his heart, and you are on the outside of it. You lie awake at night, replaying that single, foolish sentence over and over in your mind. You had reached the absolute pinnacle of the harem. You were the favored wife, the mother of a brilliant prince, a whisper away from becoming the next Watery Sultan, the most powerful woman in the world. And with a handful of misplaced words, spoken from the heart, you may have just thrown it all away. The cooling of the Sultan's gaze is not a sudden blizzard, but a slow, creeping frost. It chills your world 1 degree at a time. The change is subtle at first, almost deniable. He cancels a planned evening with you, citing fatigue. He sends a polite gift of perfume instead of coming himself. He still asks after your son, or maid, but the questions are formal, lacking the old warmth and pride. The harem, with its thousands of sensitive political barometers, registers the change immediately. Power here is not a title or a rank. It is proximity to the sun, and your orbit is decaying. The first clear sign is the flow of gifts. The powerful officials who once scurried your favor with jewels and silks now send their tributes elsewhere. You notice a particularly fine Arabian horse, one you know was intended for your stables, being delivered to the household of your rival, Alisa. It's a public and humiliating shift in the political weather. Your stock is falling, and hers is on the rise. The chief you met, the Kaizila Aga, who once greeted you with a subtle but undeniable respect, now offers only a curt, formal nod when you pass. His impassive face reveals nothing, but his body language speaks volumes. He is disinvesting. He is a master of political survival, and he knows how to cut his losses. Even the Watery Sultan, your staunchest ally, begins to distance herself. Her conversations with you become shorter, more perfunctory. She still adores her grandson, your son, but she looks at you with a new, sorrowful disappointment. You were her chosen instrument, and you have blunted yourself. You have failed her in the unforgiving calculus of dynastic power. Her primary loyalty is not to you, but to the stability of her son's reign and the future of the family. If you have endangered that by becoming a source of political friction, you are no longer an asset, you are a liability. This phenomenon, the fulcrum saver, was a recognized and terrifying part of the harem life cycle. It was a kind of social death that preceded a physical or political one. The historical sources are filled with accounts of women who, having reached the heights of power, found themselves suddenly isolated. The reasons varied: a political misstep, the birth of a more beautiful rival, or simply the Sultan's changing tastes. The question historians often grapple with is how much agency these women had in their own downfall. Was it always their own mistake, or were they often scapegoats for larger political failures? Their fall engineered by male courtiers who resented their influence. You experience this social death daily, in the Bathish. The women who once clamored to be near you now find reasons to sit on the other side of the room. Your old friend Dyla, now a respected senior attendant, still shows you kindness, but her eyes are filled with a deep, pitying sadness. She has seen this happen before. She knows how it ends. A strange and pathetic detail of this decline involves the palace kitchens. The harem's kitchens operated on a strict hierarchy. The finest ingredients, the most skilled chefs, were reserved for the Sultan, the valide Sultan, and the most favored consorts. As your star fades, you notice a subtle decline in the quality of your meals. The cuts of meat are slightly less tender, the pastries less delicate, the fruits a day past their peak. It's a petty, almost childish signal, but it's unmistakable. You are being demoted in the gastronomic hierarchy, a clear indicator of your fall in the social one. Your greatest fear is for your son. Ahmed is still young, but he is intelligent enough to sense the change. He feels the new coldness from his father, the whispers that follow his mother. You see a confusion and a fear growing in his eyes that tears at your heart. You have not only failed yourself, you have endangered him. By trying to secure his future, you have made it infinitely more precarious. The final, undeniable sign comes one evening. The Sultan is hosting a small musical performance in his private chambers. In the past, you would have been the guest of honor, seated at his side. This time, you are not even invited. Instead, you hear the distant sounds of laughter and music coming from his wing of the palace, and you hear, quite clearly, the sound of Ali's voice, singing a triumphant, joyful song. You stand in the shadows of your own silent, opulent apartment, a prisoner of a luxury that now feels like a mockery. The silks are cold against your skin. The jewels in your box feel like stones. You look out through the latticed window at the dark waters of the Bosporus, shimmering under the moonlight. 4 years, that water was just a beautiful view. No, it seems to call to you, a cold, dark whisper of an alternative fate. The warmth of the harem, the sun of the Sultan's gaze, has turned away from you completely. You are now in the deep, chilling wind that blows through the corridors of the forgotten, and you know, with a certainty that freezes your soul, that this is not the end of your fall. It is only the beginning. The frost of the Sultan's disfavor hardens into a thick, suffocating ice. The next stage of your fall is quieter, more insidious, and in many ways, more terrifying. It is the beginning of your Rasua. It starts with the servants. For years, you have been surrounded by a small army of attendants. They were your eyes and ears, your hands and feet. Their bows were deep, their service impeccable. They were a constant, physical affirmation of your status. Now, they become heralds of your demise. It begins with a slight hesitation. When you call for a servant, she takes a moment longer to arrive. When you give an order, she complies, but without the old alacrity. There is a new sullenness in their posture, a subtle lack of respect that is as sharp as a slap. Then, they begin to avoid your gaze. You walk into a room where 2 of your maids are gossiping, and they fall silent, their eyes immediately dropping to the floor, refusing to meet yours. It's a small thing, but it's a powerful and unnerving form of social ostracism. They are rendering you invisible, turning you into a ghost before your time. They know what is coming. They are distancing themselves from the contamination of your failure, already mentally reassigning their loyalties to the next rising star. This behavior, this looking away, was a deeply ingrained part of the palace's nonverbal language. Eye contact was a currency, a sign of engagement and respect. To be denied, it was to be excommunicated. Historians who study courtly manners note that in many hierarchical societies, the control of the gaze is a primary to love power. In the closed, paranoid world of the harem, it was a finely honed weapon. Who you looked at, and who looked away from you, defined your place in the universe. The most painful betrayal comes from a young girl named Elif, whom you had personally selected as your chief lady-in-waiting. You had favored her, taught her, treated her with a kindness that was rare in the harem. She was your confidant. No. You see her in quiet, conspiratorial conversation with Alice's servants. She is trading your secrets, your routines, your modes, your fears for a promise of a position in the new winning court. When you confront her, she doesn't even have the decency to look ashamed. She simply stares at a point on the wall just past your shoulder and says, "I don't know what you mean, Sultan. The use of your formal title is a mockery, a final twist of the knife." Next, your allies in the outer court fall away. The vizieress and pause as who once sought your counsel now walk past you in the courtyard as if you were a statue. They have important business elsewhere. Your network of influence, so carefully built over years, dissolves like mist in the morning sun. You are politically radioactive, and no one is willing to risk their own career through association with you. A particularly bizarre and humiliating episode confirms your complete isolation. The harem kept a collection of exotic pets, gazelles, peacocks, and strangely, a number of prized Angora cats with fluffy white fur and odd-colored eyes. These cats were pampered and beloved, and being assigned to care for one was a sign of gentle favor. You had always had a particular affection for a beautiful white cat named Pasha. The cat would often sleep on a cushion in your rooms. One day, the official mistress of the cats, a quirky but surprisingly influential old K-Alpha, arrives at your door and, with a series of flimsy excuses, removes the cat from your care, stating it was needed in another part of the harem. They have taken away your cat. It is a signal so petty, so profoundly absurd, that it's almost laughable. But you don't laugh. You understand the message. Even the animals are being removed from your sphere of influence. The academic debate here centers on the speed and totality of such a fall. Was it a gradual erosion of status, or a sudden, coordinated shunning? The answer is likely both. The initial calling from the Sultan would trigger a slow, cautious distancing from the top players, but once a critical mass was reached, once it became clear that the fall was irreversible, the shunning would become total and swift, a cascade of self-preservation from everyone below. Your world shrinks to the four walls of your apartment, and even there, you are not safe. The servants who look away are a constant, unnerving presence. Their silent judgment fills the rooms. You have nowhere to turn. Dialis still brings you news, her face a mask of sorrow, but there is little she can do. You are trapped in a nightmare of silent contempt. Your son, Ummi, is the only source of light in this encroaching darkness. But your fall is affecting him deeply. The tutors who once praised him now find fault in his work. The other princes, sons of Alicia and other consorts, mock him openly, knowing he no longer has his mother's powerful protection. He comes to you in tears one day, and you hold him tight. Your heart breaking. Your failure is not just your own. It is a stain that is spreading to your innocent child. The silence around you grows deeper each day. It is the silence of the forgotten, the silence of the politically dead. You are being systematically erased from the life of the palace, and you know this process. This slow, agonizing stripping away of your identity is just a preparation for the next, more concrete step. You are being unmade, piece by piece, before you are removed entirely. The final, formal act of your demotion comes on a grey, drizzly afternoon. It arrives not with a dramatic confrontation, but with a quiet, administrative order. A eunuch, one you don't recognize, appears at your door. He is accompanied by two stone-faced co-elfers. He does not bow deeply. He does not meet your eyes. He simply unrolls a small scroll and reads from it in a flat, monotone voice. By order of the Watery Sultan, in consultation with the Sultan himself, you are to be relocated. Your household is to be dissolved. You are to be moved, immediately, to the Eskisarei, the old palace. The words hung in the air, cold and heavy as iron, the old palace. Every woman in the harem knows what that means. It is the designated retirement home, the gilded prison for disgraced or widowed consorts, the cast-off mistresses and forgotten mothers of dead princes. It is a place of memory and regret, a repository for women whose time in the sun is over. To be sent to the old palace is to be exiled, to be buried alive in a tomb of faded luxury. There is no appeal. There is no argument. The decision is final. Your servant, who had been feigning work in the outer room, immediately began the process of packing. But they are not packing for you. They are packing for the harem. They methodically strip your apartment of its fine things. The silk cushions, the silver mirrors, the priceless carpets, all are palace property, to be reallocated to the next favorite. Your jewels are taken, inventoried, and returned to the Imperial treasury. Your magnificent wardrobe is folded and taken away. You are allowed to keep only a few personal effects, a handful of simple dresses, your prayer book, a small wooden box containing a lock of your son's baby hair. Everything that defined your life as a Hosekai Sultan is stripped away in a matter of hours. The most brutal part of the decree is read last. Your son, Ahmed, will not be joining you as a royal prince. His education and upbringing are the responsibility of the state. He will remain here, in the Topkapi Palace. He is to be given a new suite of rooms, a new household staff, and a new guardian. The guardian, the eunuch announces without a flicker of emotion, will be Elisa. The news hits you with the force of a physical blow. You gasp. The rough, wounded sound. They are not just exiling you, they are taking your child. They are giving your son to your most bitter enemy. It is a cruelty so profound, so perfectly calculated. It takes your breath away. This is your true punishment, not the loss of status or luxury, but the loss of your son. The practice of separating a disgraced consort from her children was a key tool in breaking her power. A mother's influence was inextricably linked to her access to her princely son. By severing that bond, the palace neutralized her as a political threat. The psychological toll of this on both mother and child is a topic historians can only speculate on. As the personal accounts of these women are almost entirely lost, was it seen as a sad necessity of statecraft? Or was it understood as the act of profound cruelty it was? You begged. For the first time in years. You lose your composure. You plead with the eunuch, with the K-Alphas. You ask to see the Watery Sultan, the Sultan. You are met with a wall of implacable silence. The eunuch simply rolls up his scroll and leaves. The K-Alphas stand by the door. Their arms crossed, their faces like stone. A lesser known tragic detail of the old palace was its administrative status. It wasn't just a place of quiet retirement. It was a significant drain on the Imperial treasury. The upkeep of hundreds, sometimes thousands, of high-status women and their skeletal staffs was enormously expensive. This often led to resentment from the ruling sultan's new family in Topkapi, who saw the old palace as a financial burden, a constant reminder of past regimes. The women there were not just forgotten. They were often resented. You were given a few moments to say goodbye to Ahmed. He has brought to you, his face pale and tear-streaked. He doesn't understand what is happening. Only that you are being taken from him. He clings to you, his small body shaking with sobs. Don't go. No more, he cries. Don't leave me. You hold him tight, trying to memorize the feel of his hair, the scent of his skin. You try to be strong for him. You whisper promises you know you can't keep. That you will see him soon, that everything will be all right. It is the hardest thing you have ever had to do. Finally, a K-officer steps forward and gently but firmly pries his hands from your dress. He is led away, looking back at you, his eyes wide with fear and betrayal. The sound of his crying echoes down the corridor until it fades, leaving you in a silence that is deeper and more profound than any you have ever known. You are dressed in a simple, dark traveling cloak. You are no longer a Hosekai Sultan. You are a ghost, a non-entity, as you are escorted out of the harem, through the same corridors you once walked as a queen. No one meets your eye. You pass girls you once knew, women you once commanded, and they turn away, their faces averted, as if the sight of your failure is a contagion they are desperate to avoid. You are placed in a closed, windowless carriage, as the door slams shut, plunging you into darkness. You are overwhelmed by the smell of dust and disuse. The carriage lurches forward, its wheels rumbling over the cobblestones. You have been officially uncompletely erased from the world that mattered. You are on your way to the Palace of Tears, the place where the women of the harem go to be forgotten. The journey to the old palace is short, a mere carriage ride through the bustling streets of the city, but it feels like a journey to another continent, another lifetime. When the carriage door opens, you are not greeted by the manicured gardens and shimmering tiles of Topkapi. The Eski Sarays are sprawling, some the complex of dark stone and weathered wood. It was the first palace built by the Ottomans in the city, and it carries the weight of its age. It is grand, but it is a decaying grandeur, a place that history has left behind. You are led through dim, echoing halls. The air is cool and smells of damp stone, beeswax, and something else, a faint, pervasive scent of old paper and dried roses. The silence here is different from the tense, watchful quiet of the harem. It is a heavy, listless silence, the silence of resignation. You are taken to what will be your new apartment. It is a spacious set of rooms, larger than your first apartment at Topkapi, but it is sparsely furnished with old, mismatched pieces. The fabrics are faded, the wood is dark and scratched. Dust motes dance in the weak light filtering through a high, grimy window. It is a room that has been waiting for its next sad occupant. A few hours after your arrival, you are granted a final, devastating audience. You had hoped, foolishly, that it might be with the Sultan, the last chance to plead your case. But it is the Validi Sultan who enters your new, sad rooms. Her son, the man you love, the man who condemned you, will not even grant you the courtesy of a final farewell. The Validi Sultan is not accompanied by her usual retinue of glamorous ladies-in-waiting. She is with two imposing, silent eunuchs, and her face is a mask of cold, regal sorrow. She is not here as a friend or even as a mother-in-law. She is here as an agent of the state, performing a idle, grim duty. She does not sit. She stands in the center of the room, her posture as rigid as ever. She looks at you, and for the first time, you see something flicker in her eyes. It is not anger. It is not pity. It is a kind of weary finality. She has done this before. She is an expert in tidying up the dynasty's loose ends. You have been a great disappointment, she says. Her voice is cold and clear as winter ice. There is no preamble, no gentle easing into the condemnation. You open your mouth to speak, to defend yourself, to explain the love and fear for your son that drove you to your fatal mistake. But she raises a single, imperious hand, and you fall silent. You are given every opportunity. She continues, her voice unwavering. You were raised from the dusty place beside the Sultan himself. You were given wealth, status, and the greatest gift of all, a son. You had the world in your hands, and you threw it away. For what? For pride, for impatience. Her words are like stones, each one striking you with a brutal, undeniable truth. Your crime was not in loving your son. Your crime was in forgetting your place. You tried to steer the ship of state. This ship has only one captain. By challenging his authority, even with a single word, you became a danger to him, a danger to the stability of the empire, a danger to the very son you sought to protect. She pauses, letting the weight of her accusation settle in the dusty air. Therefore, a decision has been made. This is the moment. The accusation without a voice. You are not being put on trial. You are not being given a chance to argue or present evidence. You are simply being informed of your sentence. The harem's justice system was not a system of laws, but of absolute, unquestionable authority. A woman could be condemned without a single witness or a formal charge, based solely on the word of the Sultan or his mother. Historians struggle to understand this legal framework. Was it pure tyranny, or was it guided by an unwritten code of dynastic security? The debate is unresolved, because the perspective of the condemned is forever lost. You brace yourself, your heart a cold, heavy lump in your chest. What will it be? A lifetime of lonely confinement in this sad, decaying palace. The Valadi Sultan's gaze is unwavering. You have become a source of instability, a rallying point for factions and intrigue. As long as you draw breath, there will be those who would use you, and your son's name, to plot against the throne. The dynasty cannot afford such a risk. A tiny, almost unbelievable detail of these final condemnations was the language used. It was always couched in the vocabulary of statecraft and stability. An execution was never called a murder, it was a necessary measure, a removal of a threat. This linguistic sanitization allowed the perpetrators to maintain a sense of righteous purpose, even as they were ordering a quiet, brutal end to a human life. She doesn't need to say the words. You see the sentence in her cold, clear eyes. It is not exile. It is not imprisonment. It is erosua, the final, absolute erosua. She looks at you for a moment longer, a flicker of what might be regret, or perhaps just weariness, in her expression. I am sorry it has come to this, she says, her voice losing a fraction of its icy control. You had great potential. Then she turns, a rustle of dark silk, and glides out of the room. Her eunuchs follow, closing the heavy wooden door behind them with a soft, final thud. You are left alone in the deepening twilight, the sentence hanging in the air like a ghost. You will not see your son grow up. You will not see another sunrise. You have been judged, not by a court of law, but by the cold, pragmatic needs of an empire, and the verdict is death. The heavy thud of the door echoes in the sudden, profound silence. You are left alone in the grey, dusty room, but you are not truly alone. You are in the company of your own fate. It is no longer a vague, shadowy threat. It is a solid, physical presence in the room with you, as real as the faded carpet beneath your feet. You do not cry. The tears have been frozen inside you since they took your son. You do not scream or rage against the injustice. What would be the point? There is no one to hear. Instead, a strange, chilling calm descends upon you. It is the calm of absolute certainty, the peace that comes when all hope has been extinguished. You walk to the single, grimy window of your apartment. It is barred. Of course, not to keep you in where would you go, but to maintain the decorum of your seclusion. Through the dirt and the ironwork, you can see a sliver of the sky, now turning a deep, bruised purple as the sun sets over the city. You can see the distant silhouettes of the great mosques of Constantinople, their minarets like dark needles pointing to a heaven that feels very far away. This is your last sunset. The thought is not as terrifying as you imagined it would be. It is simply a fact. You watch the colors fade from the sky, from purple to a soft, dusky rose, and finally to a deep, starless black. The city, which once roared with life and promise, is now just a collection of distant, indifferent lights. As darkness falls, the sounds of the old palace change. The daytime shuffling and quiet murmurs give way to the deeper silence of the night. You can hear the sigh of the wind in the eaves, the scuttling of a mouse behind the walls, the distant call of the night watchman from the city streets. These are the last sounds you will ever hear. You think of your life. It feels impossibly long and tragically short all at once. You remember the sun on your face in the village you came from, a memory so faint it feels like a dream. You remember the stench of the slave ship, the terror of the auction block. You remember the bewildering maze of the harem, the taste of your first piece of locum, the feel of the lute strings under your fingers. You think of the Sultan. You remember the look in his eyes when he first saw you, the sound of his voice when he asked for your real name. You try to summon hatred for him, but you can't. What you feel is a vast, hollow sorrow. He was a man trapped in his own golden cage, a prisoner of his own power, and you were just one of the many beautiful birds he had kept for a season. And you think of Ahmed, your son, a wave of pain, so sharp and fierce it almost brings you to your knees, washes over you. You picture his face, his small hand in yours, the sound of his laughter. You pray to whatever gods may be listening that Elisa will not be cruel to him. You pray that he will grow up strong and wise, and that he will, from time to time, remember the mother who was stolen from him in the night. This is your only legacy. This fierce, helpless love for a child you will never see again. The historical record is almost completely silent on what these final hours were like for the condemned women of the harem. There are no diaries, no final letters, no last words recorded. Their deaths were designed to be quiet, traceless, and unremembered. This silence is perhaps the most chilling part of their story. It is a testament to the brutal efficiency of the system that condemned them. They were not just killed. They were erased from history. You sit on the edge of the dusty, unused bed. You have no desire to sleep. You want to be awake for every last second of the life you have left. You listen to the sounds of the palace, trying to commit them to memory. The creak of a floorboard in the corridor outside, the distant chime of a clock, marking an hour you will not live to see. An odd, mundane detail that has been pieced together by historians is the protocol of the final meal. Often, a condemned person of high status would be served a final, lavish meal. It was a gesture of respect, a final acknowledgement of their former station. But no food is brought to you. Your disgrace is so total that you are not even afforded this last, small courtesy. You are to meet your end on an empty stomach. You wait. The hours crawl by. The moon, a pale, sickly crescent, rises and traces its slow arc across the small patch of sky visible through your window. You are not afraid. The fear has been burned out of you, leaving only a great, aching emptiness. You have been a slave, a student, a lover, a consort, a mother, a queen. You have played every role this world has to offer a woman like you. Then now, you have only one role left to play. The victim in a silent, state-sanctioned murder. You smooth down your simple dress. You tuck a stray piece of hair behind your ear. You sit up straight. Your back rigid. Your head held high. You will not meet your end as a weeping, pleading wreck. You will meet it with the same dignity you have tried to maintain throughout your impossible life. You are a daughter of a forgotten land, a ghost in a palace of secrets, and you will face the darkness on your own terms. You listen to the silence, and you wait for the sound of footsteps in the hall. The sound, when it comes, is exactly as you expected it would be, not a loud, violent crash, but a soft, stealthy scrape. The sound of the bolt on the outside of your being drawn back. It is very late. The moon is high in the sky. The rest of the palace, the rest of the city, is deep in slumber. This is the hour of secrets. The time when the palace does its dirty work. The door swings open without a creak. Standing in the doorway are not the familiar eunuchs or K-alphas of the harem. These are men you have only seen from a distance. Figures of quiet dread. They are the Boston CS, the Imperial Guards. Officially, they were the palace gardeners, a corps of elite soldiers responsible for the upkeep of the royal grounds. But they had another, unspoken duty. They were the Sultan's discreet executioners, when a political problem needed to be solved quietly, without a public trial or a spectacle. The boss and CS were summoned. There are two of them. They are large men, dressed in simple, dark clothing. Their faces are grim and impassive, their eyes revealing nothing. They are not here to gloat or to threaten. They are here to perform a task. A job like any other. The head of their court, the boss and CBS, was a powerful and feared official, as he held the power of life and death over many in the palace. The anonymity of his men was key to their effectiveness. One of them holds a small, flickering lantern, which casts long, dancing shadows on the walls of your room. The other holds a coil of thick rope and a large, coarse burlap sack. You look at the sack, and a cold, primal fear, a fear you thought you had conquered, flickers deep in your belly. It is the fear of the trapped animal, the terror of a suffocating, ignominious end. This method of execution was reserved for disgraced members of the dynasty or high-ranking harem women. It was a death designed to be silent and traceless. No sword, no blood, no mark on the body, just a quiet disappearance into the dark water. Historians debate the precise reasoning behind this specific method. Some argue it was a form of respect, as shedding royal or near royal blood was considered taboo. By drowning, the execution was technically bloodless. Others suggest a more practical, cynical reason. It left no body for followers to turn into a martyr's shrine, no grave to become a site of pilgrimage or rebellion. It was the ultimate erosoa. You rise to your feet as they enter the room. You do not speak. There is nothing left to say. You had thought you might fight, or scream, or plead one last time, but seeing them, seeing their calm, methodical professionalism, you know it is utterly futile. They are instruments of a will far greater than your own. To struggle against them would be like struggling against the tide itself. One of the men steps forward. He moves with a surprising gentleness. He does not grab you or handle you roughly. He simply takes your arms and, using the rope, binds your wrists behind your back. His movements are practiced, efficient. He is an expert in this sad, dark craft. You look past him, at the other man who is holding the sack. He opens it. It is just a plain, rust bag, smelling of dust and dry grain. It seems impossible that this mundane object will be your tomb. The man who tied your hands now moves to place a gag in your mouth. It is a thick strip of cloth. As he brings it to your lips, you turn your head slightly and look him in the eye. For a fleeting second, his professional impassivity wavers. You see a flicker of something in his gaze: pity, discomfort. He is a soldier, a gardener, a man who follows orders. But he is still a man. And he is about to kill a defenseless woman in the dark. He quickly looks away, his jaw tight, unsecures the gag, silencing you forever. The last sound you make is a small, muffled gasp as the rough fabric is pulled tight. They guide you out of the room, one on each arm. The halls of the old palace are deserted, a labyrinth of shadows. Your feet make no sound on the stone floors. You are a ghost being led by other ghosts. They take you not through the main gates, but down a series of back stairwells, towards a small, private postern gate that opens directly onto the palace's seaside wall. The gate creaks open, and the scent of the sea hits you. It is the same smell you remember from your arrival in this city, so long ago, the clean, sharp scent of salt. But this time it is not a promise of a new life. It is the promise of an end. A small, dark rowboat is waiting, bobbing gently in the water. A third man, the oarsman, sits silently in the boat, his face hidden in shadow. You are carefully, almost politely, handed down into the boat. You stumble, your bound hands making it difficult to balance. And then, the second man, the one with the sack, gets in behind you. He lifts the heavy burlap bag. You close your eyes. You think of your son's face. A final, perfect image in your mind. The sack is pulled down over your head, plunging you into a world of absolute, terrifying darkness. It smells of dust and ropes and finality. You feel the man's strong hands as he ties the sack closed around your ankles, bundling you into a neat, human-sized parcel. You are no longer a person. You are cargo once more, just as you were on the ship that brought you here. You feel the boat lurch as the oarsman begins to row, pulling away from the shore, away from the palace, out into the deep, dark waters of the Bosporus. The world inside the sack is a universe of pure sensory deprivation. It is utterly black. The gag fills your mouth, stifling any sound you might try to make. The rough burlap scratches against your face. All you have is the feel of the boat's movement, the muffled sounds from the outside world. You can hear the gentle, rhythmic splash of the oars dipping into the water. It's a peaceful, hypnotic sound, a horrifying lullaby for your own death. You can feel the boat rising and falling on the gentle swells of the strait. The Bosporus at night is a major thoroughfare, but at this late hour, it is mostly quiet. There are no other boats nearby. This is a private, lonely journey. You try to gauge how far you are from the shore. You try to picture the glittering shoreline of the city, the magnificent silhouette of the Topkapi Palace against the night sky. You were once a queen in that palace. Now, you are just a weighted parcel being rowed to a secret, watery grave. The boat slows, then stops. The sound of the oars ceases, replaced by the soft lapping of water against the hull. This is it. This is the place. You hear a low murmur of voices from the men in the boat, their Turkish words muffled by the thick sack. They are not talking to you. They are talking to each other. Is this deep enough? One asks. Yes. The other replies. The current is strong here. It will be quick. The current. It's a small, clinical detail that speaks volumes. They have chosen the spot carefully. This is not a random dumping. It is a calculated disposal, designed to ensure your body is never found, swept away by the powerful currents that churn through the strait and out into the Sea of Marmara. The Bosporus is notoriously treacherous, with complex, multi-layered currents. The men who do this work know its secrets intimately. They know the places where things disappear forever. The historical reality of these executions is, by its nature, shrouded in secrecy. There are no official records of drownings by order of the Sultan. What we know comes from hushed mentions in chronicles, rumors recorded by foreign ambassadors, and the occasional folk tale. The lack of concrete evidence is, in itself, proof of the system's effectiveness. It was a perfect, deniable crime. The academic consensus is that while it may not have been a nightly occurrence, it was a very real and utilized method of political and social control within the dynasty. You feel a new weight being added to the sack, near your feet. A heavy stone. A piece of old metal, something dense and solid to ensure you sink quickly. They have thought of everything. Your heart is a wild, frantic bird, hammering against your rib. The primal urge to live, to fight, to breathe, surges through you with an incredible force. You tense your muscles, a futile, instinctive struggle against the ropes that bind you. One of the men must feel your movement. He places a heavy hand on your shoulder. A gesture that is not unkind, but is firm and absolute. It is a gesture that says, "Be still. It is over." You feel yourself being lifted. For a moment, you are suspended between the boat and the sky, a helpless, bundled thing. You have a brief, dizzying sensation of falling. And then, the cold. It is a shock so profound it steals the breath you don't even have. The icy water of the Bosporus envelops you, instantly seeping through the burla, through your clothes, shocking your skin. It is a cold that feels ancient and absolute. The weight at your feet does its job. You do not float. You plummet. You sink down, down, down into the black, silent depths. The pressure builds in your ears. The water inside the sack rises around you, cold and heavy. Your lungs are on fire. They scream for air, an agonizing, desperate command from your brain. This is the final, terrible battle. The body's desperate, involuntary fight for life against the inevitable. You try to hold on, to cling to that last image of your son's face. But you can't. The instinct is too powerful. Your mouth opens, despite the gag. In a final, silent scream, the cold, dark water of the Bosporus rushes in. It is not a gentle fading. It is a violent, wrenching end. A final, convulsive shudder. And then, nothing. The pain is gone. The fear is gone. The cold is gone. You are gone. A buzz on the surface. The little boat turns and rows back towards the shore, leaving behind only a few faint ripples that are quickly smoothed away by the current. The men do not speak. They will return to the palace, clean their equipment, and go to their beds. Tomorrow, they will be gardeners again. The city of Constantinople, the magnificent, terrible city of your dreams and your nightmares, sleeps on under the moon. The Topkapi Palace stands silent on its hill, a jewel box of secrets, utterly indifferent to the one it has just discarded. Your story, your name, your love for your son, it all dissolves into the dark, silt-laden water. You are now just one more secret that the deep, cold Bosporus will keep forever. And now, the story is over. The echoes of the tale begin to fade, leaving behind only a deep and profound quiet. Let the darkness in your room be a soft, comforting blanket. There is nothing left to hold on to, nothing to follow. The journey is complete. Your only task now is to let go, to allow the gentle weight of sleep to settle over you, as soft and as final as the falling dusk. Feel your body growing heavier, your breath deepening, your mind letting go of the shore and beginning its own slow, peaceful drift into the deep, quiet waters of your own dreams. There are no more struggles here, no more fears, only a gentle, effortless sinking into a place of perfect rest and tranquility. The final word has been whispered. If your mind is still gently stirring, you're welcome to drift into another of my stories. If not, I wish you a deep and peaceful slumber. Good night.